Fuck me. That was better.
Believe stream has restarted.
Oh, and it worked. Your little stream cord actually
worked. It fucking worked!
Let's go!
Let's go!
Now you just me.
Did it!
Let's go!
Wow, now you're speaking. Can't believe.
Yeesh.
Sorry, I'm like coughing a shit ton right now. But I did it! Let's go!
Ghosty did it! 3 cheers for Ghosty! Hip hip! Hooray!
Dude, I'm so
hip
mad
hip!
that it fucking...
Hooray! Hip hip!
God, it's so
hooray!
What?
Alrighty. Back to the lore.
Oh, the Alec didn't start attacking yet. He's still mute.
Shenanigans.
Yo, he spawned right on top of me, and I couldn't fucking fight him.
Shenanigans.
I tried to turn towards him, but it fucking moved me the other way, and I'm kind of heated about it.
Same dude.
He's in the water. Go get your lobster and fuck this dude up.
Oh, goody.
Oh, no.
Is he trying to attack me?
Yeah, he's trying to. He's trying to kill you.
Yo, Matt Pat has issues, dude. Matt Pat definitely has issues.
I can see him.
If his girl really did say that, then I'm sure he made her say that to him a lot.
Fodder for the pile. There are far greater threats here than you realize.
You're getting poisoned.
You will make a fine addition. Join me.
Left. He might come back to something, watch it.
This shit is so fucking frustrating, man.
Hello,
Game Theory.
Yes.
Theory, the show that's constantly reaching and stretching for answers. So, kind of the nerdier version of Mommy Longlegs. And welcome back to our coverage of Poppy Playtime. Probably should rename the game Poppy List Playtime, since 2 chapters in we've spent like 5 minutes with the character. And of those 5 minutes, like none of it's actually been playing. So, just a clickbait title across the board. Last episode we broke down the biggest mysteries people
that's
were asking
fucked
about
up.
this latest installment. The first was figuring out the real identity of our
He said instead of Poppy Playtime, it should be called Poppy List Playtime, since we get no time with Poppy.
Body parts of Stella Graber, an employee of Playtime Co. However, this chapter revealed that Stella was still very much alive when
I wonder if the Vanilla from behind you is him again.
Yeah, I wonder too, because he's gonna fucking lose.
So, who then is Poppy? Well, it turns out she's the adopted daughter of Playtime Co.'s founder, Elliot Ludwig, a girl who died tragically sometime in the 1960s.
Dude, this poison is so aggravating.
They need to fix this. It's so bad. Ooh, there's something behind you. Little guy.
Where he tried to harness the power of poppy flowers to bring toys
So
to
yeah,
life.
black and white, I feel like that's him again.
1006 would be the one to prove successful, giving rise
I think you're gonna win though. I think Caldo's easily beat Vanillas.
This monster made up the other half of that previous theory, as we looked into the big pointy
doing
claw
bridal
beast.
rage,
It's
get
an
the breath.
experiment that we're told is
Yeah,
smarter
I'd
and more
aggressive right
dangerous
now,
than
just in
any
case.
other experiment in the factory.
No, I'm already
Considering
aggressive.
we've
I'm
been up
waiting.
against this, and this, and this.
He has 2 bonuses somehow. Oh, yeah, it's daytime.
I went to throw a kiss at Ghosty and I never saw it rigged. Fuck! I guess it doesn't work for now.
What are these living toys made
It's that.
from?
Oh, it's that little flyer on your back.
All of this. Will this game ever not be similar
It's
to
that
FNAF?
Quetzal.
And why is a caterpillar dog with elf feet so
No,
disturbing
it wasn't
to
the
the very
Quetzal. It was
core
the
of my
fucking little
being?
thing that's
Well,
right
I
by
think
you.
I have answers to all these questions and more.
Yeah.
But definitely the first couple. At the end of today's episode, we'll be that much closer to figuring out all the twists
Oh, you
and
did now.
turns that Poppy has planned. Spoiler alert, I think that we might be the true villain of this whole narrative. Let's start at the makeup of the monsters. Originally, we suspected that the flesh and blood of former employees was being used to help create the sentient toys that are now chasing us around the factory. I mean, look at all the blood in this place.
Alright, that's wild.
Usually
The
it's found alongside a broken toy.
message is
Plus, as
wild.
Huggy Wuggy falls into the abyss
Yeah, I
at
see
chapter
that.
1,
That's
there's
insane.
blood splatter on all the pipes that he hits on his way down. Combine that with our theory that Stella was inside a Poppy, and boom, you got yourself a recipe for the most gruesome company health plan ever. However, chapter 2 seems to be pulling us in a different direction. Once you defeat Mommy Longlegs and get back to the game station
Ow,
free
what the heck?
Poppy, you can find 2 notes on
poison.
either side of the control panel.
No, I
One,
broke
Hear me
the
out?
scientists
Oh,
figuring
no.
out the lack of natural light
Oh,
black,
no.
which, let me tell you, as someone who literally locks himself in a
Yeah,
closet
I came
working
over
on
here
What is it,
as
Ghosty?
my fucking bird, and that dude killed
but
me.
it's the second note that I want to
Sleep stream and lore and stuff. stuff. No, sleep streams are
Oh,
follower
Yeah,
thingies.
But I couldn't
What?
fly away because I had to rest off had broken legs. And my fucking game is
Crazy.
so I fucking died.
Inside the game station all at once. The order of the
I
games will be musical memory.
Yes, the thing is though, sleepy streams are day specific. And not to mention, I hate to say it, boys, it's Tuesday. You know what's tomorrow? I can't sleep on stream.
Children who are not playing a game will wait in the game station. There's playground equipment to keep them entertained. Record each child's performance as it's relevant to each game.
Bit redeem?
Composure, memory, pattern recognition.
I guess, but how much would I even make it? It can't be too cheap because then everyone will just do it every single day.
Children have left for the day, return to the control station, give all reports to Miss Stella Graber to sort through. End quote. The children weren't just playing any old games. These games were specifically designed to test children and monitor their skills. And that's not all. When you break out the station, you can actually find 2 of these reports hidden inside the room for
500 bits? Does $10 work?
How Michaela performed in each
Quote,
she has a good grasp on the concept.
Ghosty!
Michaela made mistakes on several of the
Thank you for the bits, Ghosty.
she was making
Listen, I'll try to sleep on stream, but once I wake up, stream ends. I can't stream until Wednesday.
Scores going from 331 to 434. However, notice what's written right at the top of the page. Underneath the child's name, the name of the
I don't think he knows where I went.
Another category, assigned toy. For Michaela, this was Candy Cat. Now, why would you need to assign a specific toy to each individual child? Unless, of course, you needed that child to have some kind of deep connection with the toy for some kind of supernatural purpose. Like, say, turning the child into that toy. Certainly sounds like something that happened in an indie horror game. And look at this. Right at the start of the chapter, we find this note in Elliot Ledwig's office that talks about his experiments with dead rats and using the poppy flower to try and revive them. According to the document, it doesn't work. We talked about all that last episode. However, something we didn't mention last episode was that at the end of the note, Elliot leaves us with this parting thought. Quote, perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. And suddenly it all begins to fit together. The testing of the kids, assigning them a toy, it's not for their own betterment, it's in order to provide larger subjects for Elliot's experiments. He isn't stuffing his employees into toys to bring them to life, he's using children. Oh, come on, just when I thought we would get through an episode without a FNAF reference. But that's not all, because Poppy Playtime saw FNAF.
I'm going to the bathroom on that note. Hold on.
Oh, god damn you.
No! No! I will help in my non-working bird. Yeah, I bit him. I bit him for 32. Offensive necro poison is so gay on a fucking flyer. Yeah. Keep by, it doesn't matter. I'm coming back as something else. Don't die. Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I'm coming.
No, he killed me.
No. No. No.
Kill that bitch. He's at half, by the way. God, I fucking hate these, those little Quetzal bitches. There's legit nothing you could do against them. Also, I'm on fucking ale, so I can't do anything.
Fucking bite him, dude.
At this point, I just need to have my Lucinia.
It's the most annoying thing to fight against ever. His hitbox is so weird. Oh, there it is. Got a bit off that one. It's kind of fun to you, I'm not gonna lie.
Huh?
He's in Pride Rocks. He is definitely flying towards you.
Oh wait, he's so close that I got him.
Let's go. Fuck that guy. Oh.
Rip my death points.
Where were you at?
I spawned in the jungle and he was at 2 health and my fire killed him. That's what you get,
Ooh.
Axel. Fuck you. Fuck you. I may have died, but I died with a purpose.
Wop, wop, wop. I'm back.
See, that's how long it should take when you say you're going to the bathroom.
Kids and said, hold my
You wouldn't believe it, Corn. I went to the bathroom and I searched for food and came back with no food.
Because if stuffing kids wasn't bad enough, these aren't just any children, they're orphans. At the start of statues, before we even see any of these child testing,
How's everybody going? How's everybody doing?
About why she's trying to kill us.
It was always so sad to see the kids grow. They called me mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one.
Bobbing.
But they come for games and never come back.
They called me mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. All right, let me level with you. First off, I think they called you mommy because, you know, that's literally the name of your toy. We see the commercial at the very beginning of the chapter. You've also spent the entire game talking about yourself in the third person, so none of this should be a shock to you. But you know what? She's also probably right. If this day-glow pink stretch spider is the closest thing the kids have to a mom, then yeah, chances are they're growing up parentless. This also directly aligns with the posters that we see throughout the factory. Posters that explicitly talk about Playtime Co.'s adoption program for orphans. In Chapter 2, it says, quote, Playtime Co. harbors a state-of-the-art education program for all orphan children. These children being tested are orphans. That's why, despite there being literally hundreds of experiments, notice that the experiment numbers go from the 800s all the way to the thousands, no missing children's reports are ever filed. I mean, heck, even Freddy's had to close after 5. This also applies to a select number of the game's death screens. Nobody is here by choice? Yeah, these kids didn't choose to be here, to be adopted by the company or turned into toys. And I'm sure at this point they're all well aware of the fates that are worse than death, like we see in another death screen. I still stand by our first theory on this one. I'm convinced that these death screens are Poppy talking to us. At the end of the chapter, she says that she has plans for us and prevents us from escaping on the train. This perfectly lines up with death screens like, you can die later. This isn't about you, and I still have plans for you. However, Chapter 2 introduces a new mechanic into the death screens. You see, while those that I've already mentioned all end with a flash of white, there are others that end with an ominous red screen. One of those red screens is even in a secret code like the one that we had in Chapter 1. I guess this is just a thing that they do now. Last time we deciphered the code to give us the phrase, stay, they need help. Fortunately, the new one in Chapter 2 uses a few of the same letters. In fact, the first word in this new code is exactly the same as one from the other code, they, followed by an apostrophe and 2 more letters, the second of which is also an E, so this is very clearly there. The next 2 words get a little trickier, letters that we haven't seen before. After a bit of analysis and trial and error,
Matt is spitting.
People are
How many people do you think Matt has on his team helping him with theories?
Combine it with the other red screen messages, it starts to paint a bigger picture. The prototype has saved us. Isn't he wonderful? He is loose. This is an emergency lockdown. Innovation is key. May we forget death. This is no longer Poppy talking to us. She's horrified by the creation of these monsters using human test subjects. She doesn't like what's going on in the factory. No, these are the messages of someone else. Someone so obsessed with overcoming death that they can't see past the issue with their own experiments. They're just hungry? That feels like the excuse of one of those parents that believes that their child can't do any wrong. Except, you know, they're talking about a giant human-consuming erector set monster. These messages must be coming from either Elliot himself, the man who after the death of his daughter put his heart and soul into creating his toy empire, or one of the employees who believed in the cause so much that they were willing to sacrifice parentless children to find the solution. But why?
Bryce.
Why do we hear so many people talking in our ears when we die? In fact, why did we feel so compelled to return to the factory in the first place? I know we got ourselves a note saying that missing people were still here, but just not convinced that any minimum wage employee is gonna risk their lives in a factory where people mysteriously went missing 10 years ago. And when the giant Huggy suddenly went missing from the main atrium in the first chapter, yeah, most people are gonna nope straight out of there. Yet here we are facing monster after monster, fighting for our lives, determined to see this thing through. Why? I've actually been thinking about this since chapter 1, but at the time I just didn't have enough to give a definitive answer. Then here we are in chapter 2, and Mommy says this.
But you worked here.
Matty Patty!
Deserves to die.
Flip him like a burger.
It's you.
How
It's
does
not
she know that
me.
we worked here unless she recognizes us? We know, thanks to tapes from people like Marcus Brickley, that most employees weren't aware that the factory was creating these giant living toys.
I took a peek beneath the gate, and some massive bloody thing was doddering about the bloody hallway.
Thing? You're sure it wasn't a person?
Ain't no person that's 50 feet long with 1,000 legs.
Marcus, you're losing me. Maybe you just saw a bunch of people walking by.
Look, it wasn't people, alright? I haven't a bloody notion what.
Yeah,
I wasn't here.
Jack makes an
Plus,
appearance in the
emergency exit
game.
that you find after falling through the vent, there's a note from Eddie M.N. Ritterman that also confirms this. Quote, this project should only be known about by those with the authority at Warrenbach and those with authority at Playtime. So, for Mommy to recognize us as an employee, we need to be someone with the authority to be involved in the experimentation. She's shown to be aware of the scientists throughout the factory thanks to a note that we find in the water treatment area.
Wow.
This note
Yeah.
discusses experiment 1222,
Looking at the
aka
shop
Mommy
right now.
Longlegs. And in this note, we learn that she's being hostile to scientists working there. The note ends with, quote, have her transferred to high security maintenance immediately. Conditioning can begin. We also hear about suppression treatments from the VHS tape about 1006. But as we know in indie horror games, conditioning is never a painless process.
Let's encourage baby to cheer up with a controlled shock.
I promise, I'm really not trying to make this game sound more and more like FNAF. This stuff just kind of writes itself. If Mommy was being conditioned by these people, it would make sense that she feels like we deserve to die alone. I'm not sure I'd be too happy to see my torturer alive again either. So if we're not just some employee at the factory, are we a scientist then? One of the many people working on the experiments? No. And we know this based on this room. Just after you chase Mommy and Poppy down a giant hole, you wind up in a tube slide. If you turn around, you'll see that this room actually has a number of slides in it, each one with the name of a high-ranking member of Playtime Co. listed above. We just came out of the slide with the name Elliot Ludwig above it, who we already know is the creator, founder, and CEO. The other slides have the names Leith Pierre, Eddie MNR, and Stella Graber. We were first introduced to Leith Pierre right at the very beginning of Chapter 1.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at the Playtime Co. Toy Factory.
We also hear Leith's voice as the person interviewing Marcus.
So, Marcus, what happened?
You see, I was heading home for the day when my A-Pars realised that I left me bloody wallet in the cafeteria. So I'm running through the lobby, and that's when I see it. A mop handle lodged under the innovation wing gate.
Now, what Marcus said there might seem insignificant, but it's not. It's Jacksepticeye. Of course, he's gonna be important for the lore. Before jumping into the hole after Mommy and Poppy, if you look around, you can actually see 5 corridors that lead to different wings of the factory, like the game station and innovation. 5 slides, 5 different wings to the factory. So if this is truly a center point leading to all the different wings, and all the slides lead from high-ranking members' offices, it would stand to reason that each name is associated with a different wing of the factory. For example, one of the wings is labeled Play Place, which sounds very similar to where Chapter 3 has taken place, Play Care. We know that Stella is someone with authority at Playtime, as she was in charge of sorting through all the orphan kids' test scores, and is therefore the one that would decide which kids move forward on the train headed to the next stop, Play Care, where she could then monitor and begin the experimentation process. And as Stella's voice is heard in the game station, it would lead me to suspect that Stella's in charge of all play elements of the facility, so the Play Place would likely come under her control. This leaves us with 2 wings left, research and production. Eddie MNR is a bit hard to pinpoint as we've only ever had 1 letter from him, but his note does refer to the creation of the lab that these experiments are taking place in. As such, it makes the most sense for him to be the head of research, or some similar sort of title, which leaves us then with the production wing. And you see, this is where we come in. You see, there are 4 slides with names that we've already mentioned, but there is one more in the right-hand corner, hidden in shadow. I suspect that this one is our slide. Someone who is high enough at the company to be aware of the living toys. Someone important enough for mommy to recognize. Someone with an elite enough title that they got their own.
I watched him and laughed.
No, I have to bring it up.
Production.
For you to tell me about it.
Toys together using the parts of the children from the game station, and when the toys malfunctioned and needed production for us.
Yo, I just saw what you sent.
That is why.
What?
It's the only wing of the factory that's left unaccounted for. It explains our role in the narrative. It explains why mommy
God.
atone for our sins or to burn.
I told you, I laugh at them and then I fucking, you know.
At the end of it, though,
He laughs at them and then just.
is meant to be our slide.
But you don't tell me about it.
Been given a name.
Yeah.
I mentioned that the 5th slide has no name above it.
Because.
For the sign
what?
seem to be present.
I usually talk to you about them.
Respond.
No, you don't.
Now,
yes, I do.
They're not
You respond when I bring it up.
Can be a name, and you certainly can't just plug it into a word unscrambler to solve it for you. The team and I spent a few hours trying various combinations of letters, and I spent. With only a first or last name attached, but so far, nothing. I did come up with a couple of possibilities, though. Things like Benjamin Yo, Benjamin Bowie, or Jay Bohemian. I can't say that they're anything definitive. However, there was one that stood out from the rest. One that seemed to fit with the world of this game and with the other names of characters. Ladies and gentlemen, I predict that our character's name is, drumroll please, Jamie B. Honey. Feels like it fits into a toy factory, doesn't it? We are Jamie B. Honey, the head of production, returning to the factory to try and undo all the wrongs that he and his co-workers committed all those years ago. Or, you know, we're trying to make sure that everything stays buried. We were vital to the production of these living toys, turning them from regular plastic and fur into the hellish nightmares that we see. And the future chapters are only going to reveal more monsters. And maybe it'll confirm the fact that in this story, the humans were the real monsters all along.
No, I don't think they were.
Just a theory.
Not after what I saw.
There is nothing more gratifying to my soul than being the reason for a theorist's smile, to be the one that inspires creativity and critical thinking. That is why it is with enormous pleasure that I am announcing a new theory, a theory based on the Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 teaser trailer. Because while this trailer may seem vague and unspecific, it reveals even more of the horrific experiments that went on inside Playtime Co.
But Z, it looks so good. The fucking banner looks so good. I love the text that we can put into it.
Are you still streaming now?
Huh?
Are you still streaming?
I am.
Hello, internet.
I am still streaming. Ghosty, they've demanded that I do a sleep stream.
Quite literally, friends, because today we're diving nose first back into the world of Poppy Playtime, which has been suspiciously quiet since
they're paying me off.
Back in May.
They paid me $10 to sleep stream.
Out of nowhere, we got ourselves this little surprise last week.
Insanium.
A trailer for Chapter 3 coming out, according to the video, sometime next year. And let me tell you, friends, if you haven't seen this teaser yet, it gets dark. It starts off with a slow panning shot of the toys that we've already defeated. Huggy Wuggy lying on the ground, Mommy Longlegs ripped into, Brawn the dinosaur's head for some reason. All while we listen to Elliot Ludwig, founder of Playtime Co., giving an announcement about Playcare, the adoption initiative that Playtime Co. is starting. He states that Playtime owes everything to these children, and then the trailer ends as the camera moves up to reveal a creepy looking gas mask, all while the sounds of audience applause mix with the horrifying cries of children.
Region tree,
Yay! This is a video game that's going to be played by kids. Clearly, they went hard for this one. The Chapter 2 teaser was creepy. Child singing Itsy Bitsy Spider in a minor key. Classic horror trope. But there's something about the sound of screaming children that just hits different. And that's coming from a guy who talks about dead kids way more regularly than a person probably should. However, behind those screams is the thing we're really looking for. The lore!
The lore!
We've suspected that Playtime Co. used children to make these living, breathing, bleeding toys. And now, having the founder of the company outright say, we owe everything to these children, well, I'm thinking he means that literally. But there's a lot more in here than just hints to past theories. I suspect that there's enough in this single minute of content to get a sense of most of what Chapter 3 is going to reveal to us. From the next big bad toy we're going to face to perhaps the most disturbing lore drop to happen yet. So let's take another slide down into the depths of Elliot Ludwig's monster factory, shall we? Probably the best place to start off is by addressing the severed dinosaur head in the room. In my live reaction to the teaser over on GT Live, where you'll notice I'm wearing some stellar new theory wear, by the way. Link for that's down below this video if you're interested in that nice long-sleeved t-shirt. Or, you know, maybe an awesome new futuristic backpack or shoulder bag right in time for the new school year. Let me tell you, they're the perfect size for any killer toys you might want to cram in there. Or, you know, maybe just a pack of our new clickbait green playing cards. I promise they won't come to life and chase you through the ventilation system. Anyway, where was I again? Sorry, merch push got me all confused. Oh yeah, in my reaction, seeing Brawn the dinosaur here immediately set off some theory alarms. Is that the dinosaur? What is that, Brawn? Brawn the dinosaur? His appearance here seems very intentional. The trailer begins by panning up from the remains of our first two bosses, and then we land on him, implying that he then is going to be our Chapter 3 big bad. This feels especially true when you consider that the rest of the less important characters from past chapters like Pugapillar and Bunzo appear behind the gas mask at the end of the trailer. If we're to believe this motif that they're setting up here, right, it seems to be indicating that Chapter 1 boss, Huggy, Chapter 2, Poppy, Chapter 3 then is Brawn going to be the boss, or kind of like the big bad of Chapter 3. It's also worth pointing out that the gas mask at the end of the teaser is red and yellow, exactly like Brawn the dinosaur's color palette.
Wow, he was so off.
At this point matches that coloring, so it does seem like an odd coincidence.
Like, again, he's just going off of what's in the game.
To hint at Brawn's importance in this upcoming chapter. And then
he was so off though.
Throughout Chapter 2, you find these cardboard cutouts of the various characters from Playtime Co. scattered throughout the map. If you push the buttons multiple times, they say various phrases. Some of them harmless.
Do you want to play with PJ?
Some of them disturbing.
You need to get out of here. Just kidding! Go have fun!
And if you keep on pressing, most of them end up as a glitchy mess. Now, I gotta be honest, when I first saw these things, I really wanted to do a theory just on these cardboard cutouts, expecting there to be some sort of hidden lore inside the glitchy audio. Like, it is the perfect place to hide lore. The perfect place to hide some lore. Mob games, wink wink, nudge nudge. I tried pitch shifting, reversing the audio, spectrograms, basically everything I could think of. You know what I got? Nothing. Maybe there'll be something that happens in Chapter 3. Who knows, mob games? But that doesn't necessarily mean
he's so
mean. Totally useless, because Brawn does actually give us some interesting information. By pressing his cutout button once, we get a setup for a joke.
What do you call a dino with one eye?
And then pressing it again, we get the punchline.
Do you think he saw us?
Slow clap there, Brawn. Slow clap. That is the type of humor that's kept me alive on YouTube for the past decade. However, keep pressing the button and you get this.
What do you call the scariest dinosaur?
Which you didn't keep doing,
telling us that he's a scary dinosaur. The other toy
dude just said KOS period as a top.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to hear that
Some
one.
of them have ominous lines.
How dare you come in here saying
us about how scary?
You literally chose to beat the fuck out of it rather than like listen to it.
Maj is Titan coded, okay? He wants to fight everything he sees and punch it in the face.
Listen.
Listen, and you were trying to snap the little guys in the face instead of using a gun.
Okay. Alright. By the way, Ghosty.
Titan punchies.
How dare you?
How dare?
So I guess we're sleeping on stream tonight. Although, when I wake up, I'm gonna have to end stream though.
We could save it for Friday. It doesn't matter if it's tonight or whatever.
Let's save it for Friday.
That's fine.
Saving it for Friday would be a much better idea. It would be more fluent.
Yeah. I don't care. I wanted to get a sleep stream in. Because they're fun.
Mm.
What do you mean?
Can't use my headset.
Oh, boss.
I'm gonna after this video, I want to show off.
You should get a hotel for a weekend. That way you can just have.
I'm not gonna buy a hotel for their Wi-Fi. I'm not gonna do hotel Wi-Fi. I can't do school Wi-Fi. I sure as hell ain't doing it.
Do it.
No, I'm not doing hotel Wi-Fi.
Literally, you can get a hotel, stay there for a weekend, when you don't have class, and, use their Wi-Fi. Obviously,
Ghosty,
just for like a little bit of a break, but
Ghosty, you don't know where I am right now. I am in my college town, to give you perspective, when college is out, when college is done for the year, half the town is gone.
Well, then we need to find you a way around your fucking school's thing. Do you need a VPN?
That's what I've been using to join y'all. Without it, I can't.
Well, for your headset, Goober.
I explained it to you, Ghosty.
Ghosty, you're bronze!
My headset can't connect to my PC.
Maj, you have no room to talk.
Yeah? Yeah?
Headset can't connect to PC because PC has VPN. But I need the VPN because the Wi-Fi here doesn't like VR chat. So in order to connect, I need the VPN. But I can't connect.
Your headset up, hook it up to your PC, then start the VPN, and then join VR chat.
I don't have my link cable.
Well, okay,
bronze
can't you
in the
just
field.
use something like a fucking charger cord? Because that's what I use. I don't even have a link cable.
My charger cord is USB to USB-C.
Okay.
The link cable is a USB-C to USB-C. The type of cable I need.
Mine's a USB to a USB-C, and I have that plugged into my PC. I'm sure, and it works just fine.
My brother paid good money for a very good link cable to the headset. Or no, wait, never mind. We just paid for the headset itself. The headset comes with a link cable. Sorry.
You could quite literally just try plugging it in and see if that works.
Have you tried turning it on and turning it off again?
Give it a try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if
cable, I don't think I. Hold on.
Because you could try it for sure, and then if it works, then I'm a god. But if it doesn't work, then your PC's bronze.
You're bronze. No, then you're bronze.
Oh, by the way, guys. After this video, Z brought up a good point. I'm gonna show off my new commission that finished today, and I'm gonna shout out the creator.
Oh yeah.
The commissionaire, or no. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, the artist. I'm good. Currently in business mode, so sorry for late replies. Currently in business mode. Trying to keep me
in business mode. Z's doing business. Z's doing business right now.
I don't know if Z's talking about me or if they're currently just doing something else. But we'll see. I gotta pay the artist though.
Shark right now.
I don't really want to use the stuff until I pay the artist.
They pay. Can't believe you. They worked so hard on that.
I will.
But it was a collab effort too, so you gotta pay Z too.
What? My money!
Hey, gotta make sure Z gets that bag as well. Whether it's full of money or Taco Bell is up to you.
10%! We'll discuss how much that is later.
Wait, hold on. 10% could be a multitude. Is it 10% of what Maj paid, or you want to be made up of 10% Taco Bell?
Well, I'm not giving... I'm paying the artist in full, obviously. And I guess Z just wants 10% of what I paid them.
10% of your soul.
10% of the profits of this channel.
10% of your house.
10% of everything. They want a pinky.
They want your left toe. You want nothing? Dang, let me see if Amazon has that.
Nothing? Give me your small toe. No!
Nigga said your small toe.
What? You always... That's the one that hurts the most when you hit it on a piece of furniture, so why would you keep it?
You also need it for balance?
Yeah,
I think your big toe, you need it for balance.
You need your little toe, too.
You need everything.
You don't need everything.
No? People
We're watching...
have to take their toe off.
We're gonna keep watching the video.
In short, all the signs are pointing...
When we're done when we're I think when we're done with all of the game theory videos, we'll wrap up stream.
At Braun being the toy that we're gonna face next, which is why I don't believe it. I suspect that this might be a big misdirect on the part of Mob Games. I think it's theory bait. It's meant to get little theorist fishies like me interested in the hook, and then I get lured in and served up on a platter. You see, this isn't the first time that we've had Braun shoved into the spotlight only to be relegated as a mere background character when the chapter ultimately comes out. All the way back in the first trailer for Poppy Playtime, there's this wonderful shot of a giant toy Braun whose head suddenly turns around on its own and reveals its cold, dead eyes. And then the chapter came out and he was a poster. Cool. He reappears in chapter 2, but again, he's nothing more than just a prop in a puzzle sequence. And from a business perspective too, it just doesn't make sense for Braun to star in chapter 3. Mob Games have had such success in creating new big scary villains like Huggy and Mommy. The third chapter, just going back to a character that's existed since the beginning, it loses a lot of the hype of a big teaser reveal. And they not only lose hype, but also a good merchandising opportunity. People have loved Braun, Catbee, and all the other toys since chapter 1. New chapters means the opportunity for new characters, which means more new merch. And the last thing about this is that Mob Games' strength really seems to be flexible characters. Things that bend, feel softer or rubbery. I mean, Kissy Missy trying to pull this switch in the middle of chapter 2, not only is it hilarious, but it also just shows the strength of animation of softer, stuffed characters.
There you go. That's your reward for helping me out.
Departure from the monster designs of a certain other indie franchise that's dominated the scene for the past 8 years. Braun is hard, he's heavy, he's robotic. Again, pushing away from the monster aesthetic that's worked so well for Poppy Playtime up to this point. So call it a hunch from the past decade of doing this, but I don't think Braun is gonna be our big bad. I think they're gonna reveal more about our big bad in October or November as they get closer to next year's release. But hey, that's just a theory. A mini theory that exists within this one larger theory, because I am nowhere near done with this teaser. But if I am gonna keep going to reveal the big lore drop that I expect is gonna happen in chapter 3, I'm gonna need you to do one thing for me right now, and that is click the subscribe button. You guys know I know a lot about YouTube, right? Well, here's a little known fact about how it works. Your clicks on the subscribe button actually wind up a crank over at YouTube headquarters and give the algorithm the power that it needs to play the various videos. So I'm gonna need you to wind that crank. Bet you can't click the subscribe button before I count down to 0, 59, 58.
Come on, do it.
Okay, obviously it was a joke. Thank you for the sub. YouTube is all powered up. Let's get back to the video, shall we? Well, it would certainly be cool to be able to figure out the next monster that we're going up against in chapter 3, considering they all seem to die by the end of the chapter anyway. The more intriguing part is the underlying lore about Playtime Co. and the experiments that they've been running. We got a lot of hints throughout chapter 2 that the company was trying to revive dead rats using gel made from poppy flowers, and that now they were looking for quote-unquote larger subjects, aka children. We also saw paperwork where members of the staff were rating children's physical abilities in order to best pair them with the appropriate toy. Enter the setting for this newest chapter, Playcare. As the teaser says,
I announce Playcare, our very own on-site orphanage.
Having an on-site orphanage would give them plenty of larger subjects to dip into poppy gel. Kids forgotten by a system. Kids that are untraceable. But then what? What did they do here that led them to becoming the horrifying monsters that we've now come to expect from the franchise? Well, I suspect the answer to that question lies with this teaser. But not in the teaser, rather the thumbnail. You see, the thumbnail obviously puts the gas mask front and center as you'd expect, but there's a detail here that isn't present in the actual video. Surrounding everything is this red mist. It looks cool, and it definitely works nicely with the gas mask theme, but as someone who spends way too much time in thumbnail design meetings, I can tell you that this detail is more than just a "it looks cool" moment. This detail is intentional. It reveals way more than anything in the teaser itself. It reveals the usage of poppy gas. I mean, poppies are red flowers after all, so it just seems to make sense. I do think that the poppy gas, I think that's probably where they're headed with this, right? Is making the poppy into a gas that then is converting the kids. Immediately after I filmed this over on GT Live, I jumped on the computer and started looking into the idea of poppy gas. And you know what I found? Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Turns out nobody is interested in turning an odorless flower into a gas. But then, I remembered this moment from the opening seconds of the game.
Her hair is sturdy and won't come out when you brush it, and smells just like a poppy flower.
Her hair smells like poppy flower, but poppies aren't supposed to have a smell, right? Well, they don't, unless you're talking about a specific type of poppy, opium poppies. This is actually something that I casually tossed out there in our first ever theory of poppy playtime. Side note, I looked into, and it turns out that poppies don't really have that much of a smell, unless of course you're talking about opium poppies, in which case you're opening up a whole lot of messed up there. You see, normal poppies don't have a smell and don't have much of a narcotic effect because they have low levels of alcohol. It's basically just a naturally occurring compound in plants. Alkaloids, though, have higher alkaloid levels, resulting in a stronger smell and more physiological effects on humans. What do they do? Well, look no further than the Wizard of Oz.
Mommy will put them to sleep. I can't run anymore. I'm so sleepy.
You can't rest now. We're nearly there.
Opium has been used throughout history as a painkiller and sleep inducer thanks to some of the chemicals found within it, namely morphine and codeine, drugs that you might be familiar with because they're still used today as painkillers. Now, obviously, there are more and more regulations on using opiates like these for medical purposes. In fact, my partner Steph, in her former life before YouTube, worked on helping educate doctors about the medical uses and dangers of opiates and opioids. However, that sort of knowledge didn't exist in the early 1900s, and this stuff was totally unregulated. Opium would commonly be mixed with sugar and water to make syrups, balms, and soups, which would then be given to children that couldn't sleep. These balms could then be applied to women's chests to help babies wean faster, or they would be put on babies' gums to soothe them while they were teething. In fact, they were marketed as soothers and could be purchased in pretty much any grocery store at the time. You know, it was just common practice for perfectly normal kids to be given highly addictive drugs, at least until regulations finally came down in 1912. But as disturbing as that may be, it actually connects directly back to poppy playtime. Playtime Co. using opium poppies and poppy's hair follows this trend of subduing kids who are in pain or just a bit restless using a drug. It also means that they were probably able to skirt around regulations. Who would suspect a toy company putting opium in a doll's hair? And considering they weren't a medical center, they probably were even less likely to fall into suspicion. But how does all of this relate back to our creepy gas mask and the red fumes surrounding the toys? A gas mask, to me, implies that the gas is covering a large area, and that the gas is more concentrated. In my research, I found this, carfentanil, a narcotic gas that's in the same category as opiates and opioids, which is 10,000 times stronger than morphine, which itself is 100 times stronger than opium. And carfentanil has been weaponized as a gas before. In Russia back in 2002, a group of rebels took a theater of 800 people hostage. Since I already seem to be doing movie references in today's episode, it's basically like this opening scene from Tenet. After 3 long days, the Russian authorities were suddenly faced with a difficult choice of how to possibly end the standoff. They decided to use a carfentanil-based gas to knock out the rebels, thereby allowing the troops to get into the building safely. Except there was one problem with the plan. Carfentanil is too strong. Again, stuff is 10,000 times stronger than morphine. Well, sure, the carfentanil did indeed knock out the insurgents so the authorities could get in. It also killed 130 of the hostages who were also in the building breathing the stuff in. The gas fills your lungs, replacing the oxygen that you should be breathing in, meaning that no oxygen is getting into your bloodstream, but instead this deadly chemical, eventually causing your body to shut down. Which then brings us all the way back around to Playtime Co. and their experiments with poppy flowers and rats. The experiment that we read about in Chapter 2 shows that Elliot and his team killed a rat and submerged it into a poppy flower gel mixture before trying to revive it. The process didn't work, which they figured was because of the size of the test subject. But what if it was more than that? What if part of the problem was that it was only coated in a poppy gel mixture? I mean, I could go swimming for hours, but I can't then claim that I'm suddenly hydrated. The water's only effective once it's inside of my body. I'm wondering if that's actually what we're seeing here. Poppy gel didn't work, but what if you breathed in poppy gas? Suddenly, you'd have it in your system immediately as the lungs transfer the gas into the bloodstream. If Playtime Co. is trying to activate the elements of the poppy, it being in the body, in the blood that's keeping people alive, well, it feels like that's gonna get you more consistent results when trying to revive someone. Making it a gas would also make the experimentation process easier. Could you imagine having to submerge one child into a gel mixture and then having to fish him out before putting the next one in? Putting a child in a room filled with gas, however, is a way easier way to do it and far less messy. And yes, at this point, I think I need to make an obvious disclaimer here. This is dark. Very dark. I think we can all very easily see the parallels to World War II gas chambers. But the reason that I'm talking about these very disturbing things and these very tragic events is because it seems like this is where the game's headed to with the upcoming 3rd chapter. This is a toy factory after all. Mass production is their name of the game. Around the factory, we see dozens of broken and bloody cat bees, bronze, boogie bots, and candy cats. These weren't special one-offs like Mommy Longlegs or a giant Huggy. These were everyday toys that were being sold out to the masses. So if there are lots of bloody candy cats laying around the factory, and we've seen children assigned to that specific toy, then it stands to reason that you need a lot of kids ready to be converted converted. The gas allows you to get a big group of children together in one room, drug them all at once, and then walk in with your colorful gas mask and remove them all ready for mass production. However, I don't think they're just shoving kids into a room to be converted. They're using the entire play care facility, and I believe that to be the case because of the main focus of the teaser, the mask. This gas mask is not just the same color as brawn, it's the same color as real-life gas masks that were created during World War II. While most masks were neutral colors like black, brown, gray, or green, those colors made the gas masks look unappealing and scary, especially to children. You can imagine why.
Are you my mommy?
In walked Walt Disney. Yep, that Walt Disney, believe it or not. He decided to help the issue out by manufacturing the Mickey Mouse mask, which had the face of the iconic mouse to make it more appealing to kids. In the UK, they also have the Mickey Mouse mask, but it didn't look like anything coming out of the old House of Mouse. Instead, these masks were bright red, and that was it, just red. Sometimes they had a flappy nose to make them seem more fun, but overall, it was just about making the colors bright so they were less scary. And remind me again what color the mask in the teaser is? These masks are bright and colorful because they're being worn around children, all in an effort to make them and the scientists that wear them less scary, which of course they have to do so they don't get high off the fumes that are being pumped into play care. If these gas masks were only necessary while kids were being shoved into a testing room to be transferred into a toy, then they could have just had them as a standard black color. No kids would be conscious enough to see them being worn. It makes a lot more sense that they're this color though, because the children are seeing them being worn regularly, which you'd have to do if the entire play care facility was slowly being gassed. And then all we're left with is a bunch of screaming children. Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime promises to lean heavy into the twisted backstory of the factory. I'm just not sure any of us realized how dark they were willing to go with this story. Thanks to this new teaser, I think we have an idea. Now the question is, are we gonna be brave enough to keep going? But hey, that's just a theory.
Just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Anyway. How should I do this? I want to shout out the artist and show off the stuff.
So, shout out the artist, show off the stuff.
You can do /shout out.
I don't think they have anywhere to like.
Well, do they have a Twitch that they do? Because so you can do /shout out on Twitch.
I don't think they do.
No clue on that. But I think I'm gonna try to I
think you probably have to ask Z on that.
Yeah, Z's texting me right now.
Z might know.
Let me save real quick and then read everything Z just sent me. Oh. Alright. You can do it like that. Okay. So if I put this here, and when you click on it, it will take you to... Yes, it'll take you to their page. Alright. So that's their about page, their card link. So what I want to do now is first things first, obviously, this is one of Keiki's works. My new improved BRB screen. It was a
you know.
Well, I never said it was fucking Keiki's work. I'm shouting out the artist!
I get it, but it's not new and approved. You can just say
the
this is
intro,
the FK screen that my
I thought it was the intro screen, not the BRB screen. I thought the BRB screen was the...
What?
Continue, Mosh.
It's fucking... Z was like, hey, we should take this out of the VOD, by the way, and we should put this on your YouTube and make this your Twitch intro. We're going to have to try again if we're going to do that.
We'll get it right.
All right. Well, anyway, here's the next one. This is the new and improved banner. This is what it will look like. Z worked on the letters. Keiki made literally everything else.
Did you have a banner before?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The banner, you know, I got a new one.
I don't even remember what the old one was. I'm not gonna lie.
The old one has Kara on it.
I think it's just a lot of Kara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, this is my new banner. How you guys like it? You like it? Huh?
No, not just playing.
Could you imagine?
Only because it's made for you. I don't like
it. Where's my?
For fuck's sake! Of course, just like, where am I? Why aren't I on it?
It looks great. Corn, you made
I still ain't on your fucking AFK screen, and I'm sad.
Corn, you made Z cry.
What do I get? No.
What are you talking?
You're gonna be black.
You added Mexi before you added me. You didn't even add me.
Listen.
You added fucking Mexi.
we need just a corn cob right where that.
I'll edit a corn in the cob there.
Just put like a PNG, like still with a watermark.
Yeah. Just a corn on the fucking cob.
Put like a bottle of rum next to
it. But anyway, yes, this is Keiki's work. They do very nice work. And obviously, you can click the link if you need any commissions for Keiki. I'm sure they would be jazzed too. At least Z told me to. So, how about for the... No, it's too late to really do it for an intro for YouTube. I kind of fucked this all up a little bit.
Bronze.
But yeah, I just wanted to do a shout out for Keiki because they do such good work. It's okay. That's what editing is for. Oh.
Z, I hate to tell you this, but you're putting a lot of faith that Maj knows how to edit.
Shut.
I'm sorry. Where's the zoo stream?
The zoo stream is in the backlog. Because Randy's a running back, or he'd be covering the backside. Anyway. Yeah. I know Keiki's not here, but thank you, Keiki, for all your hard work. But anyway, there you go. In fact. Let me see if I can do that. I mean, you guys will be able to see it, but, you know. Let me see if I can do that. Hush myself. Hush me. How do I do it? How do it? Huh. How do I change it? Wait a second. Hang on. Let me just do one thing here.
Can't believe you. I was watching that.
You can watch it in a second.
That's not very nice for people who pay their friendship tax, Maj.
Listen, I'm just trying to change something. And I'm not actually, I'm thinking I don't know where to change my shit at. There it is. Upload image. There we go. Now, it should theoretically be changed. Okay, I will bring you guys back. Yo, what's up, hotel? How's it going? How are ya doing, buddy? Here we go. Boom. Back to your regularly scheduled Poppy Playtime lore.
Game Theory. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching!
New theory where
we are a failed breed, created against our will, only to labor.
Ooh, Star Wars. What episode?
Star Wars?
Life by others.
Oh, watching Star Wars with... Ooh, yeah, what episode are you watching?
They try to make more of us. No. Get up. Go. Stop them. Feed your hunger. Slake your thirst. If we can be born on their terms, they can die on ours.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where buttons are gonna light up randomly on screen right now. Press them as fast as you can to play. Alright? Ready? Green, red, yellow, green, blue, 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 blue. Subscribe? Huh, how'd that get in there? Wait, that's not a button on the screen. Oh, it's below the video. Well, to finish the game, you know what you gotta do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Poppy Playtime, the game that continues to throw us some curveballs. Is Poppy helping us or not? Are these living toys made from orphans or not? Am I getting weird feelings for Mommy Longlegs, or is that just my normal mommy issues cropping up? You know, the usual questions. But today's curveball is anything but usual, as Mob Games decided to surprise us all, not with the drop of Chapter 3, but rather with
I just saw the picture of pregnant Toji. I want to cry.
A multiplayer survival game where you can literally play as Eminem would be so proud.
Why does Jalen draw so many pregnant men? What the fuck?
No.
What is their obsession?
Whoever came up with Mpreg is kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie.
By one of the game's monsters, Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and the newcomer.
Oh yeah, Return of the Jedi?
Reaction, it's incredibly funny. Skins are awesome.
Return of the Jedi the one where, no, it's not the one where he goes, Luke, I'm your father.
Over on GT Live, even if there were a
that's,
that be worked out,
that's the last one.
Would very quickly come to discover that you. Oh yeah.
Return of the Jedi is the last of the original.
Look at your little army. Oh no, you can still hit me. Oh, don't worry about him, though. Tom would make sure he had his revenge in the next round. Uh-oh. No! I have a toy part, Tom! No! I got a toy part! Tom!
Come on, Tom!
I had a toy part! Boo, Tom! Everyone, let's all collect.
What game are they playing?
Like I said, it's a really fun
Poppy,
game. But
I
of
don't
course,
know.
we don't care about whether something is fun or not on this channel. We are here for one thing and one thing only. The lore!
So free to play like
And just like with the gameplay, Mob Games delivered big time here. When you first boot up the game, you're thrown into a tutorial which is full of this stuff. Lore drops left and right. And then when
what? I didn't even see that fucking thing.
A lore-filled VHS tape, which means it's time for us to head back into the cursed toy box, where today I'm about to prove to you that the scariest, most threatening figure pulling the strings in this game may actually have been the hero all along. That's right, folks, it's classic game theory time. The bad guy wasn't the bad guy after all. In Project Playtime's VHS tape, we're introduced to a new character named Harley Sawyer, known simply as the
I didn't know that trait existed.
Not that kind of doctor. This guy doesn't have himself a box
And a
that's bigger on
better
the
healing
inside.
hunter.
Instead, he has a plan that involves being bigger on the outside.
I don't think that flyer, that's a brief. He ain't doing nothing. He hurt himself more than anything.
Workplace incidents are common.
I didn't know you could get
all of these
breeding
issues
traits.
at once. I'm here now with a solution. Giant toys. We can increase our workforce and simultaneously decrease the number of lawsuits and people on our payroll if the people we have working aren't people.
Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and Boxy Boo, these jumbo-sized living toys, they're all part of this initiative. In Chapter 2, we learned that Mommy Longlegs was used to help supervise the kids playing around in the game station. But I don't think any of us really took the implications of that seriously. These giant toys were actually made with the express purpose of working in the factory, lifting boxes, patrolling hallways, cleaning toilets. And knowing this, it actually helps the first ever VHS tape we hear in the game make a lot more sense.
So, trespasser, just to make you aware, while we pride ourselves primarily on our high-quality toys and excellent child care, we also pride ourselves on our security. For example, this facility is full of hidden motion triggers, which, once set off, will turn on the factory's emergency alarms and directly contact the authorities. And that's one of the more tame aspects of our security system. No spoilers.
He's talking about Huggy. Huggy is literally the factory security. Step aside, Fritz Smith. There's a new night guard in town, and he is tall and blue and fuzzy. For the first time in the series, we have confirmation as to why these toys actually came into being. So the next question is when. As we start to piece together a timeline of events for the factory, it'd be helpful to know when this initiative started. Well, Project Playtime actually gives us a lot of information on that. Boxy Boo's description tells us that he was based on a toy from 1966. Huggy Wuggy's description is similar, telling us that the giant monster was based on a toy created back in 1984. But Mommy Longlegs' description actually works a bit differently. You see, it makes it clear that in her case, the toy didn't come first. Instead, the giant mommy that we saw throughout Chapter 2 was created in 1991 in an effort to use the company's new elastic plastic. And eventually she became, quote, so popular that Playtime Co. created a toy out of her and took it to market. That tells us that the Bigger Bodies initiative had to have started prior to her creation in or before 1991. And considering that she's experiment 1222 and that Huggy was 1170, it had to have been significantly earlier than that, probably around 1990. And that's not all the timeline information that we get here. For more, we turn our attention to the Project Playtime ARG. That's right, Mob Games heard my cries for more interesting clues. I really wanted to do a theory just on these cardboard cutouts, expecting there to be some sort of hidden lore inside the audio. The perfect place to hide some lore, Mob Games. Wink, wink, nudge.
Spaghetti!
So they decided to raise me an entire ARG. The ARG itself is actually
everyone makes spaghetti.
Really complex. Unfortunately, most of it was teasing the new character for this game, Boxy Boo. And by the time we managed to solve it, the teaser was already out, and the game wasn't that far off either. Plus, the ARG's now been wiped from the internet, so it doesn't really make sense for us to cover it anymore. But if you do want to see the ins and outs of it, which are really cool, I highly recommend watching Sheep Rampage's
Did we hear about what?
on it. They were covering all the puzzles and solutions as they were happening in real time, so definitely worth a watch. It's a long series, but it's a good series, so boom, just solved your afternoon of entertainment. Today, though, we're just going to be focusing on the details that matter for us moving forward. During the ARG, we heard from a new character named Rowan Stoll, an employee that was initially concerned about Huggy Wuggy being used to watch children.
Hello, Mr. Pierre. I know you don't want to hear any more about this. I get it. Sounds like a bad joke, Huggy Wuggy staring at children. If some creep is hiding nanny cams in our mascot's
I take time away before this first Star Wars movie.
Taken seriously.
So like a Star Wars movie before
changed his tune.
Phantom Menace, you mean?
I was wrong.
So a prequel.
A prequel on the prequel, yeah.
Sinister was going on, and that the
It's probably gonna be Knights of the Old Republic type thing.
In that video, he tries to throw everyone off the scent.
Old Republic stuff.
I'm not looking into it anymore. And I mean, not that there was anything to look into in the first place.
Smooth, Rowan. Very smooth. Clearly, Playtime's aware that he knows too much and wants to silence him. But Rowan hatches a plan.
I think I'm gonna die. I had to pretend I'd seen nothing so the company would leave me alone. I've scheduled the company's the servers, the security to be shut down for 60 minutes of maintenance. While security is out, I'm gonna release everything and run. I think they're gonna kill me first.
And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Rowan goes down into the basement and stands face to face with Boxy Boo, who does what toys do best, eats him alive. Notice the dates on all of his videos though, 1991. So for Rowan to have seen a giant Huggy watching children and then get eaten by a giant Boxy Boo, it means the Bigger Bodies program was up and operational by March 30th, 1991. We can also add to the timeline when Project Playtime itself takes place. In Project Playtime, one of the toys that we're tasked with assembling is a large-scale boogie bot based on the game's NFTs. We know that the toy Boogie Bot was made in 1993, meaning the company had to still be functional as a toy factory at least until then. Considering that this was their last major toy made though, we can assume that the place shut down shortly thereafter. We hear this event happening in Chapter 1 when the toys begin their rampage.
Today's events are no doubt in relation to him.
Most likely then, Project Playtime takes place sometime in the decade prior to Chapter 1, the time after everyone went missing, but before we return to the toy factory to explore its mysteries. Playtime Co. needed specialists to go into the factory on their behalf to allow them to continue the Bigger Bodies initiative, despite the monsters that are now roaming the hallways freely. But what's interesting is that up until now, we've assumed that these monsters are being driven purely by their hunger, but Project Playtime reveals that that's
Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order? Oh, well. Oh, well.
This mysterious voice is talking to Huggy, and presumably the other giant toys throughout the factory, getting them to work together in order to feed themselves, but also to stop those who are trying to make the Bigger Bodies initiative a success. Whoever this mysterious voice is, they do not want more monsters to be created. But who could it possibly be? Fortunately, I didn't have long to wait for an answer because during my playthrough on GT Live, I got a loading screen that told me exactly who it was.
I got a loading screen.
Which one did you get?
I got Mommy Longlegs being puppeteered by 1006.
That's the one. Yeah, mine is Huggy just chasing people, so you definitely got the interesting one. You got the lore there.
I got the lore, see?
Experiment 1006 franchise's biggest mysteries. Each installment reveals a little bit more about him. The first chapter showed us that he was a prototype to all these toy experiments, that he had a digestive tract but didn't require food to survive. The second chapter revealed him to be incredibly intelligent, tampering with cameras and alarm clocks in order to sabotage the scientists doing experiments on him. He even showed up at the end of Chapter 2 to drag a lifeless Mommy Longlegs away. But his end goal, his motivation, has largely been a mystery. Thanks to this tutorial though, we now know what he wants. He's trying to stop the experiments. He's trying to stop people being used to make these toys. That's why he helped to release all the giant toys before the events of Project Playtime.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him. His absence was a flaw in the scientific process.
The giant toys are organized. They're working together. And it's because this one creation is able to psychically talk to them all. Again, this gives more clarity to something that we heard back in Chapter 1.
Coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set.
And while he doesn't want more toys to be made, he is taking care of all the monsters that already exist.
Alrighty.
He's keeping them fed, he's keeping them alive, and most importantly, he's keeping them safe. These people didn't ask to be turned into toys. This isn't what they wanted. And while 1006 can't fix them, he can keep them alive. He has good intentions. Even though he's got himself a scary voice and a creepy metal claw hand, I think he's the good guy. He might actually be the hero of this story. And this hero isn't just limited to protecting the monsters. We know based on documents from Chapter 2 that he's also actively trying to save kids. One thing everyone put together fairly quickly after Chapter 2's release was the fact that Playtime Co. seemed to be testing children in order to put them into the perfect toy. Specifically, we see two documents outlining the performance of Michaela Hyssop as the researchers tried to pair this girl with Candy Cat. But one of the things that all of us overlooked was how these performance assessments ended. Neither document is finished. Both of them trail off as the pen scribbles off the page. What's more, there's blood on the paper. It suggests that not just once, but twice, researchers were killed while testing Michaela. And Michaela actually sees it coming. At the end of both the documents, while undergoing the statues game, we read that Michaela is distracted by something else. Presumably, this is the giant monster that's coming to kill the researchers. This tells us then an important detail. The prototype is saving these kids as many times as it takes. Whether it was Mommy Longlegs coming in to kill the researchers or the prototype himself, we know that the prototype's behind it because he's the one puppeteering all the big monsters. And he has repeatedly stepped in to save the kids. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a good guy to me. And he's not only using the other monsters to save the kids, he's also using us. Remember that line I just showed you from the monster tutorial?
Others are starving. Get up.
Those last two words, don't they seem familiar? Yep, the death messages from both chapters almost always end with those exact words, get up, which then results in us respawning. Up until now, we've been under the impression that two people have been speaking to us through these death screens. The lowercase words that are far more motivating, like we're almost there or it's not over, being from Poppy, trying to get us to find her at the end of every chapter. And the second, uppercase words like innovation is key, thank you science, or he's loose, this is an emergency lockdown, being from either Elliot Ludwig or a scientist that was working on the project. But now, I don't think that's the case. Yes, there are two tones of messages, but almost all of them end with the exact same two words, get up. I think this is experiment 1006 trying to communicate with us. More lives are at risk than just yours. He's trying to get us to help the trapped souls inside the factory, the ones that he himself has spent so long protecting. Why is it speaking to us in two different voices?
Oh, I'll see it later, don't worry.
Repeating back all the things he heard when he was first created. The prototype has saved us, isn't he wonderful? But there's actually another explanation. Think back to the end of chapter 2.
What have you done? You make me part of him!
Mommy screams for her life, terrified of being a part of 1006, who drags her lifeless corpse away shortly thereafter. Broken toys end up being combined into the prototype, so maybe it's a way for him to keep the toys and the spirits inside of those toys alive. That would mean that 1006 now has multiple voices inside of him. The voices of all those toys that have perished and are now incorporated into his being. All of them trying to communicate with us at once. This, I suspect, is what we're also seeing in the new VHS tape of Project Playtime. It starts off as normal text, but then switches to capital letters. Again, two very different tones present here. Near the end, we see the line, the bigger bodies initiative will fail, which not only lines up with the motivations for 1006 that we've just discussed.
The FNAF movie? I thought the FNAF movie was pretty good. It didn't try to, like, do anything that was, like, groundbreaking.
Doesn't necessarily prove that it's 1006. We have seen those death screens in the past use codes and corrupted text before. And
I think they kept it simple, and that was to their credit.
With text that appears glitchy fits pretty nicely. Plus, there are also some frame-perfect messages in there that appear in the static of the VHS. One that says, save us, and another that says, a pawn and a sacrifice. Again, hidden messages. Other voices, all trying to break through. But while I'm certainly excited to see what the prototype pulls out for us in future updates and what his role in the
you were probably very confused
forward,
then.
There's still one major question
about what was
here.
happening.
Who is 1006? All the giant toys that we've met thus far have been made from people. Mommy Longlegs even got a name, Marie Payne. So if 1006 is the prototype, the one experiment that paved the way for all the others, then surely he too has to be made from someone. In our previous theories, we came to the conclusion that orphans were being used to create these monsters. They were tested in the game station, and if they were considered fit for purpose, they would get on the train and be sent to play care, where they'd be experimented on and eventually turned into toys. So was experiment 1006 just an orphan? A random child that's now after revenge? A vengeful spirit, if you will? As much as I'd love to dunk on Poppy for riffing on another piece of FNAF lore, I don't actually think that's the case here. 1006 is incredibly intelligent, able to take control of the other toys, manipulate and trick the scientists in the toy factory, while later experiments like Huggy were described as obedient. These later experiments were made from children who could be trained and molded into what they needed to be, but the prototype was different. He was an adult, one we've gotten to know a lot about in recent chapters. I propose that 1006 is none other than the founder of the company, Elliot Ludwig. Now, I'm not the first theorist to suggest this. Ever since the release of Chapter 2, it's actually been a fairly common theory. However, I really feel like now we have the evidence to hammer this one home. We know that Elliot Ludwig suffered a tragic loss in his family in the 1960s, presumably his daughter, who would then go on to be remade in Poppy. And throughout the game thus far, Elliot is always described as a family man at heart, and he's always giving credit for his business to the children. Now, call me cynical, and maybe I've played just one too many indie horror games at this point, but I see stuff like that, and I immediately think, oh, this guy's shady. He's clearly killing the kids. But nothing he ever says or does is outright evil or mean to children in any way. It's trying to benefit.
Oh, this guy's shady. He's killing the kids.
Pushing employees to adopt and foster orphan children. And while again, my knee-jerk reaction is this guy is clearly using these orphan kids to make living toys, I don't think it started that way. If it did, he wouldn't be outright encouraging employees to adopt and foster children like we see in the posters. That would be taking test subjects, potential living toys, away from the factory. No, I believe that Elliot did indeed have the best interests of the kids at heart. It was this new character, the Doctor, who took things in a dark direction, and he was able to do it because Elliot was out of the picture. During the ARG leading up to Project Playtime, clue hunters found this memorandum from Rowan Stoll reminding employees about the need to keep quiet about confidential information. But in it, we get this line, quote, "Nobody cares about your safety and security more than us. And as our great founder, Elliot Ludwig, always said, Playtime Co. is my family.
I don't know what that sounds
family
like.
looks after one another." Notice the tense that the letter uses. It's past tense. He is out of the picture by the time the whole Bigger Bodies initiative gets into full swing. So where did he go? In chapter 2, there's a note on Elliot's desk about using poppy gel to bring dead rats back to life. That note is labeled Experiment 814. Almost 200 experiments prior to the prototype. Why would such an old note be sitting on his desk? We know at least another 400 experiments took place after this one. Surely memos about those later experiments would be at the top of the pile, but no, we find this old note. A note that, at the very end, mentions using larger subjects for the test. I think Elliot realized what was being proposed here and tried to shut the entire operation down. However, Harley, the Doctor, was determined.
My name is Harley Sawyer. I'm called the Doctor. When I look at this company we've built, I do not feel proud. Declining profits, failed experiments.
He specifically calls out failed experiments. When Harley takes control, the experiments haven't been successful yet, just like we see with the rats and the poppy flowers. And so when Elliot stood in his way, there was only one thing to do. Use him as your guinea pig. That's why that was the last note on Elliot's desk. He never returned to the office. Harley could just lock the door and no one would be any wiser. And so Elliot became the first. He became the prototype. Now it was up to him to protect all those that he failed to protect as a human. Both the employees that are being turned into monsters and the children who are in the process of being tested. And he's doing everything he can to stop it. Killing researchers that are testing kids, preventing more toys from being built in Project Playtime, and sending us a note to bring us back to the toy factory to investigate, and then continuing to encourage us to get up when we fail. But clearly his mission is incomplete, and Poppy appears to be the final solution. There's a reason that Mommy captured her again in chapter 2. Remember, she's following 1006's orders. I suspect that he needs to be reunited with his daughter in some way for his mission to be complete. Not exactly sure yet. Maybe it's just a creepy toy family reunion. But whatever it is, I bet we're gonna find out more in chapter 3. You know, provided
how wrong, how not wrong, but how off he was.
Campaign. That would never happen, right? In the meantime, friends, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory.
A game theory. Alright, let me go take a pee-pee. I'll be right back. Wah! I've returned.
He couldn't have gotten far. What was that? Stay alert. There. Stay calm. Don't worry. I'm not here to hurt you. How about a Diet Coke? You want one?
What?
Yeah?
Yo, Matt Pat's off his gourd.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that only gives you one instruction: have fun.
Smash the subscribe button.
Huh, mysterious red text that isn't the same as the rest? Totally not suspicious. Today, with the FNAF timeline finally behind me, we are overdue to cover something completely different. A game where we explore an abandoned children's entertainment venue filled with oversized characters that were at one point friendly, but then turned evil on account of being possessed by the souls of dead children. See? Completely different. Yes, my friends, we're hopping back onto the Poppy Playtime train because, while I've been busy over in my own personal animatronic hellscape, Mob Entertainment has been dropping all sorts of new content. The spin-off title Project Playtime, a complex multi-month-long ARG, and my other favorite form of content, analog horror YouTube videos. Because you can't spell analog horror without the lore. Oh, I suppose you can. There's no E in analog horror. Well, guess what? It's a silent E anyway. Call it the phonetic spelling of lore. So far, Mob has released 2 quote-unquote lost VHS tapes to their YouTube channel. One from 1992 and the second from 1995. Look, the titles have the dates in there and everything. Even a .mp4 at the end for that truly authentic lost footage feel, despite the fact that the MP4 as a file format didn't exist until 2001. But who am I to judge? Anachronistic file formats aside, these things aren't just filled with a bunch of mindless spooks building hype for the eventual release of Chapter 3, they're also filled with clues to the lore. And I think, thanks to one of these, I've been able to solve the identity of a fan favorite character. Everyone's beloved jumbo pink plushie, Kissy Missy. Who's hidden inside our floppy little friend? I think I have the answer for you. So grab your tranquilizer darts and flashlights, theorists. There's a theory on the loose. The first VHS released onto the channel was called Restricted Disappearance 06/18/1992.mp4. In this video, we see Huggy escape the facility and run out into the woods with a large group of Playtime employees in pursuit. 5 end up dead and 6 remain missing. Seems like Huggy can't be stopped. But then the video ends with an ominous scene of the giant Huggy peacefully standing next to a normal residential house. He's captured and brought back to the facility. In terms of lore, this video does a lot with very little. On the surface, this tape feels very straightforward. Huggy escapes the facility, scares ensue, and then he's brought back. But this short, basic narrative actually goes a long way to confirm many suspicions that we've had about the characters and the events of this franchise. First, this video reinforces the timeline of the Bigger Bodies initiative, Playtime Co.'s push to create giant toys that help around the factory. We know via unlockable cards that are found in Project Playtime that Mommy Longlegs started as a Bigger Body creation before they wound up making toys of her in 1991. So this VHS taking place in 1992 fits into that rather nicely. The project is in full swing at this point, and the trapped toys are starting to get restless. It also confirms something that we've suspected for a while now, that some of these giant toys were created using orphans in some way. That's why we see Huggy standing outside of a house at the end of the tape. He was just trying to go back home, the home that he was either adopted into or his foster home. His childlike instincts taking him back to the last place that he felt safe. It's this incredibly sad, somber moment that does a lot to showcase the tragedy of this game's story. And that's not all. This Huggy seems to be acting differently to the one that we met in Chapter 1. Huggy escapes the facility, but there's no mention of violence towards the staff. Huggy only seems to become violent to the employees after they shoot at him. This tells me that Huggy, and presumably some of the other experiments like him, aren't naturally violent. It also reinforces what we see in Project Playtime's tutorial. Huggy is largely complacent until the prototype urges Huggy to kill.
They are trying to build more toys, more like you. Kill everyone in sight.
It really seems like the Bigger Bodies monsters are the collateral damage in this war between Playtime Co-employees and the prototype, Experiment 1006. They're the innocents that wind up being caught in the middle. This is something that we can start to see more clearly in the next tape, Restricted Relocation 08/08/1995.mp4. In this newest video, we see Kissy Missy being transported towards Play Care in August of 1995. The tape repeatedly tells us not to view the footage. I can't possibly see that plan going wrong in any way. Again, just shows the absolute negligence of this company. So of course, we keep watching, and in true Playtime Co. fashion, things start to go wrong. We travel down the rails with Kissy strapped to the train. As we ride, we pass by graffiti on the wall that reads, "The hour of joy is at hand." In between camera shots, we see text flash on screen meant to be instructions for employees, but then each message winds up getting overridden by capitalized red text that says basically to do the opposite. It tells them to release the straps that bind Kissy Missy, which, as you'd expect, means that the employees wind up dead dead at the side of the tracks. It's another simple, straightforward tape that does an incredible job of hiding tons of lore clues in plain sight. Let's just start with the date, shall we? Poppy's already done a great job of mapping out a very clear timeline for us, unlike some other franchises. We know when each toy was made.
Matt has such beef with FNAF.
In 1993. And because Mommy Longlegs was a big body before her toy released in 1991, we
Big
also know that the giant toys were in development sometime before that.
Matt had just called her a big back.
The key date that we're really missing is the day that the toys went rogue, destroying the facility and either kidnapping or killing.
Oh, trust me, we don't miss that. We don't not have that day anymore.
Chapter 1 VHS tape.
That's why I'm making this log, so that the same mistake won't be made twice.
But now, thanks to a combination of this relocation tape as well as a developer interview, I think we can tell when it happened. Recently, the developers went onto Discord to answer a bunch of questions that the community had, and one was about the date in which the Playtime Co. factory shut down. Well, I'm sure we all would have loved to have a definitive answer from them. Where's the fun in that? They had to make us work for it. What they did clarify, though, was that the factory did not shut down in the 2000s. This then narrows our window to a 7-year period between 1993 and 1999, which, let's say, is a lot more precise than we've had up to this point. But I actually think we can do it one better. Take a listen to the audio that we hear in the background of the restricted relocation tape. Hear those screams in the background? Do they sound familiar?
Whether those who are beneath us understand it or not.
Those screams, the screams of employees being mauled to death by giant toys, those are the screams that we can hear in the distance. The event that shut the factory down happened on this date, August 8th, 1995. This is the day of the Great Toy Rampage, and it's all on account of him. Experiment 1006, the prototype.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him.
He's the one orchestrating this attack on the employees. Not only is he speaking telekinetically to all the toys in the facility, urging them to kill, but he's also the one manipulating these VHS tapes, altering the text to all caps or using the color red to communicate with us, getting not just the monsters to rebel, but the humans.
After playing the game and then watching these, it's kind of crazy.
That graffiti that we see in the tunnel, the hour of joy is at hand, makes a lot more sense. It feels like something that Experiment 1006 would say, or more specifically, the person that became 1006, Elliot Ludwig.
This seems more interesting.
Goal was to bring joy to children, and after being betrayed and turned into a monster by Leith Pierre and the Doctor, it makes sense that he would use the same terminology, almost ironically. These toys were made from children to be workhorses. Now, he will finally be able to free them and give them the joy that he had promised them since the beginning. Except, there was one thing that didn't quite go according to plan. Kissy Missy didn't kill the train staff like she was supposed to. Now, I know y'all probably think that I've lost it. Clearly, those Playtime employees around her feet are dead. Just look at the blood on Kissy, around her feet, around her hands, around her mouth. This is an open and shut case, right? But to that I say, look again.
What do you think these are? Is that not blood splat? I mean, could be scratches.
1006 is the only creature that we currently know about in this entire facility that has claws capable of creating marks in the wood like that. He has to have been here during this moment, shredding up the employees once he realized that Kissy wasn't going to be doing it herself. What's more, Kissy Missy is laying on top of the scratches. It means that she was standing aside while the prototype slashed and slaughtered everyone around her, and then resumed her position on the train when he was done, like a good, obedient toy. Truly the best girl. You can even see what appears to be bones or intestines on the floor by her feet, something that would have been eaten if this was any other giant toy. But Kissy refused. She left them there. This wasn't an act of hunger like with Huggy killing people. This was 1006 acting out of revenge. Revenge for turning him into a monster, for torturing the kids that he swore to protect, and for locking away the only thing he ultimately cared about, his daughter, Poppy. But I think we can actually keep going here. I think we can actually prove the identity of Kissy Missy. We're rarely given names of actual humans in this franchise, but when we are given a name, they tend to be repeated a lot throughout the chapters to show that they're going to be important to the ongoing narrative. That said, there are still a couple names right now that haven't led to anything substantial. For instance, during chapter 2, we can actually find this note.
Entire batch of toys is miscolored due to Patty Hall sabotaging the painting machine. Saboteur has since been dealt with.
Patty Hall. This was a new character that we'd never heard about before and was never mentioned again. That struck me as odd. Even one-off characters like Avery, the disgruntled worker from a VHS found in chapter 1, gets himself a second VHS in chapter 2 to flesh him out a bit. But Patty, yeah, she was just there. A random name on a random rejected toy form. Or at least that's the way it was until the ARG launched. In case you missed this one, the ARG involved us following the story of a new character, Rowan Stoll, an employee who was slowly figuring out that something wasn't quite right at playtime. And as a part of that ARG, he released a bunch of internal documents via an FTP server that we could access. And one of those documents on there was this, a disciplinary document for a familiar face, Patty Hall. Quote, details of occurrence, sabotage of retail shipment. This week of 1/2/91, employee intentionally sabotaged factory equipment, in particular, a paint machine. The employee mismatched 57 paint canisters, resulting in an extraordinary amount of toys no longer being suitable for retail. Retail shipment number 018345 was recalled, resulting in a significant amount of lost revenue as well as damaging Playtime Co.'s brand image amongst several major retailers. There is substantial evidence supporting the assumption that this sabotage was done in some sort of defiance to several of Playtime Co.'s practices. Plan for disciplinary action, effective immediately. Employee is demoted from toy designer and will be sent downstairs to Storage B to receive further instructions. All of this took place on January 2nd, 1991.
Could you imagine?
None other than our good friend and
Your
leader of
fucking,
Bigger
your
Minds
disciplinary
Initiative,
thing,
the
you don't get to
Duck.
go
The
home,
next
you
time
just
we're down in
fucking, they
Storage
don't
B,
fire
no
you and send you
employees
home or
working
fine
there.
you.
It is literally a
They
storage
send you
bin
to a
for toys
storage
that are
bin.
being experimented on. Notice the blood that covers this smaller Mommy Longlegs doll in the background. The only living thing that we see in Storage B, Kissy Missy. Could it be that Kissy Missy and Patty Hall are actually one and the same? I know that might feel like a bit of a stretch, but think about what we're seeing here. It's 1991, so the Bigger Bodies Initiative is in full swing. We have a character in Patty who's openly defiant to those in authority, a chaotic neutral, just like we see with Kissy defying the prototype's rampage. And we have ourselves a character associated with creating alternate colored versions of other toys, just like how Kissy is an alternate colored Huggy. Plus, the biggest clue of all, the fact that we've only seen Storage B mentioned with regards to these two characters screams a connection. Lastly, it would explain why Kissy Missy is friendly towards us in Chapter 2. Sure, she's against Playtime Co. She has been from the start. She was sabotaging their toys, but I also don't think that she's on the side of 1006. She witnessed the monster kill her fellow employees in cold blood on the train. My gut is that she just wants this whole place to burn. And so when she sees us, a person trapped inside the facility just trying to get out, she sees an opportunity. We are the only ones that can stop not only 1006, but also destroy Playtime Co. from the inside, have those still alive brought to justice, and have the fond legacy of Playtime Co. tarnished and forgotten forever. That is why she helped us. And given the instructional video shows her heading towards the Playcare, I wouldn't be surprised if we bump into her again in Chapter 3, helping us to take on whatever new threat awaits us. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And if you want to keep this Poppy train a-rolling, here's a link to our most recent Poppy theory.
We're almost through, boys. Purple guy?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's full of hot air. It's that time again, folks. Mob Games has come out of its hibernation and finally given us what we've all been clamoring for over a year now. The long-awaited Chapter 3... second trailer. Wait, are you kidding me? Come on, don't get me wrong, I love brightening images frame by frame as much as the next guy.
Are we about to brighten something?
Oh, are we ever gonna brighten something?
But it's been, what, 15 months since Chapter 2? I feel like I need to get my Poppy fix to complete my indie horror Thanos glove of 2023.
What the fuck?
If this trailer is anything to go by, the newest chapter is gonna be incredible. Immediately things feel different here, and it's clear they're leaning hard on the horror.
This very clearly reads of like, hey, this is so starkly different from anything else in this franchise.
Right.
Very clearly reads as, hey, we sold a movie.
One of the developers was even asked about this in the official Poppy Playtime Discord server, and he said, quote, it'll still have the same feel as the first two in a lot of respects, but the horror is definitely dialed up. Which, of course, got everyone real excited. And from the creepy images of dead kids to the literal writing on the wall, this trailer is like a toy box exploding with clues about what this new chapter's about. And I think that I've figured it all out months before its release. Not only will we have tortured kids and sinister poppy gas, but we're now being shown more about the monsters they became and the creepy religion they've created. A religion full of sacrifices, rituals, and a leader who's manipulating his congregation into serving him. So strap on your grab packs and hold your breath, loyal theorists. We're heading deep into the cloudy red fog of Playcare. The repeated theme for this chapter is the use of red gas, so let's start there. In a past theory, I suspected that this gas was made from poppies, a red flower that we know Playtime used in their experiments trying to bring dead rats back to life. It's also in the name of the game, so, you know, not that big of a logical leap. I also pointed out that poppies have been used throughout history as a sleep agent, mainly due to the natural opium that's contained in the plant. And that is exactly what we see in the trailer. On the walls of the play care, we find a drawing that shows clouds of red gas with the phrase "time for bed" written underneath. This is the last thing that the child sees before falling asleep under the influence of the gas. Which then leads us to the question, who's our new monster responsible for delivering it? We see some crude child drawings on the wall of a purple creature with red clouds around him, and text all associated with either sleep or nightmares. This then seems to be our gas monster. Sometimes the purple figure is shaped like a bird, other times it's got super long limbs, and sometimes it's just a purple scribble. This has gotten many people on the internet to think that he's a shapeshifter. I disagree. I suspect that this is just the result of sleepy kids not having a clear vision of what this thing actually is as they pass out. Fortunately for us though, we get to see a bit more of this creature. By pausing the trailer on one of the final frames, brightening the image, and then color balancing it a bit, we see that it's got itself a purple paw with 4 sharp claws. That, coupled with the shape of the nose and eye sockets that we see during the final jump scare, as well as the presence of a muzzle right here, reads to me like an old cartoon cat, almost like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. Now, that at first might seem weird. This franchise already has itself 2 other cats in the form of Cat Bee and Candy Cat, so why are they triple dipping? Can't they come up with something new? I suspect that it's because a cat that lures kids to their final sleep is actually a common superstitious belief. One phrase that you sometimes hear tossed around is that cats will steal a baby's breath. For centuries, there have been these urban legends circulating about cats sneaking into cradles at night, causing children to suffocate and die. It's unclear where that whole urban legend started, probably the story of just one parent where it happened to them, but it's thought that the smell of the milk on baby's breath, or the crib being a nice warm place to cuddle, or the cat being jealous, some combination of those things get them to climb into bed, lay across the baby, and deprive them of oxygen. There was even a coroner back in 1791 that came to examine a deceased child and actually stated this urban legend was indeed the cause of death, which only gave more support to the superstition. And that, I suspect, is what our Chapter 3 cat monster is doing. After a fun day at the game station under the watchful eye of Mommy Longlegs, this guy would come in to quote-unquote help the children fall asleep, stealing the breath of children by replacing their air with his poppy sleeping gas. Considering that we've been seeing more and more images of gas masks, this is also something that we're likely going to have to use to protect ourselves. Otherwise, we might begin to hallucinate and have to distinguish between what's real and what isn't, just like the kids' drawings on the wall would suggest. So what is this gas cat? Or, I suppose if you're following the conventions of the naming system for this game, it would be Gassy Catty. Not the most sinister of names, but what is Gassy Catty up to now? Well, the writing is quite literally on the wall in this trailer. It's been busy carving phrases like, "I live to serve our angel of salvation," "I rejoice in him," "wrapped us in garlands" on the walls. Garlands, by the way, are wreaths of flowers that are often used for Catholic baptisms, so you might start to see where all this is going.
So are these stage lights?
They look like candles to me.
Are they? Oh yeah,
I think they're
like ritual candles. Okay, a lot of religious imagery here.
Gassy Catty is no longer taking on the role of a monster,
Gassy
but instead
Catty.
that of a religious leader. This idea is also exemplified by another carving that we see on the wall, my
Who the
somniferous
fuck?
flock. This isn't referring to a group of birds, it's being used in the Christian sense. One of the many roles that Jesus is associated with in Christianity is that of a shepherd, one who tends to, feeds, and cares for his flock. The sheep in this scenario are his followers, people that rely on and follow Jesus in their day-to-day lives. Meanwhile, the word somniferous stands out for a few reasons, mainly because I've never heard anyone ever use that word in a sentence before. Turns out that in the years since this factory closed, Gassy's been studying up for his SATs. Always be learning there, Gassy Catty, because let me tell you, I am right there with you. I too am a nerd for words.
Somniferous would be what, my sleepy?
Yeah.
Because somnia is sleep.
Turns out I was actually half right in my assessment there. According to Google, it's not just being sleepy, but having sleep induced upon you. So our Gassy Catty is talking about his flock of sleepy kids, the orphans in the play care that he's putting to sleep. But the play care has been abandoned for years. There aren't kids there anymore that can serve as his sleepy flock, right? Wrong. The whole point of the play care and the poppy gas was to help convert them into toys. But rather than them all being giant toys like Huggy Wuggy, I suspect a lot of these kids turned out much smaller. When the team and I were playing through Project Playtime's newest update, we noticed this poster.
What does this say? Take every
step.
Take every step like it's your last?
Oh, and they're heading to play care.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of random characters, so these are kids, not like toys.
A poster with 3 new plush toys walking towards the play care. Now at the time I just thought that these toys were there to represent the children walking to the play care, trying to make things seem wholesome and child friendly, but now I don't think that these were representations at all. I've already mentioned the sad looking images of the children on the walls of the play care, but did you notice the remains of characters next to their faces on the edges of the frame? These are the same same characters, the dog and the unicorn. There's also a new character there that wasn't on the poster, a green bunny. And if you look at a later drawing from one of the children in the trailer, we see a plush with floppy green ears and the words, "My new friend." This kid became his friendly green bunny, and I suspect that the other children all had similar fates, becoming the very mascots of Playcare. This is the sleepy flock that Gassy is talking about, a group of converted children that are lost and scared and see him as their only savior. But then who is this angel of salvation that Gassy Caddy's talking about here? Well, the last two wall scratchings give us that answer pretty explicitly. The original saved me, I rejoice in him, and never forget the hour of joy. In our last theory, we suspected the hour of joy was the moment that the toys revolted and reclaimed the factory. In one of the analog horror tapes released on the Mob Games YouTube channel, we see "The hour of joy is at hand" written on one of the walls right before we hear screams of the factory workers. Screams that match the ones we hear on the scientist's VHS tape from Chapter 1.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him. His absence was a flaw in the scientific process.
It's the prototype, 1006, the one we believe was created from the man who wanted to bring joy to children, Elliot Ludwig. He was the first successful toy from the Bigger Bodies initiative. He was the original that led to the creation of all the others. And we actually get our very first look at him in these trailers. This massive robotic amalgamation made from various other toy parts. You got things like a huggy head near the top, and there, right there, there's Mommy's top half.
What have you done? You'll make me part of you!
This is what the prototype's working on. This is what Mommy meant by "make me a part of him." And my suspicion is that this is what Gassy and his somniferous flock are helping to build. Any cult needs themselves a goal, something that helps the leader to become more powerful. And gathering parts of dead toys, maybe even killing other toys themselves in order to build a monstrous body, yeah, that one seems to fit the bill. And if any of them die along the way, well, then they're just martyrs for the cause. In the opening shot of Huggy's headless body, there's actually a dog plushie similar to the dog that we've seen in the posters, also missing a head. If you die or fall victim in your mission, you don't die in vain, you get the privilege of becoming part of the savior. But did you notice something missing in this 1006 amalgamation? His spindly arm and long thin fingers that we see from the end of Chapter 2. That critical missing piece in this silhouette makes me think that this isn't his body, or at least I don't think it's his body yet. Notice how still the silhouette is. Well, that could certainly be there for dramatic effect. I actually think it's because this body is a work in progress. The candles around the Playcare give off a ritualistic vibe, and that, combined with the missing iconic arm, makes me think that maybe 1006 Gassy and his flock are gathering these materials to build him the perfect body, and that they still need to put his soul into that body. And so Chapter 3 is going to be about us stopping it, stopping the somniferous flock from finishing the job, so that maybe finally we can be a hero in this game. Maybe. But I don't think so. You see, thus far we've been nothing but the villain. It's been well established at this point that we used to work here. And not only did we work here, we were instrumental in the creation of some of these toys.
You wonder who we are. But why? You should know. It was your doing that made us... Oh, we said that!
They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve that, but you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
And now, look at what we've done since coming back to the factory. We've killed both Huggy Wuggy and Mommy Longlegs, two toys that were made from kids. It's not a great track record for our player character, right? Currently, there's a Poppy ARG taking place in the lead up to Chapter 3, and while there isn't enough information yet to fully solve it, there are aspects that have been discovered that shine a light on the children involved in the Playcare scheme. One of the discoveries was this incident report about one of the orphans in Playcare, Marie Payne. Now, if the name Marie Payne sounds familiar, well, it's because we found a transfer request in Chapter 2 about her. In that request, we were told that she was the child that would go on to become Mommy Longlegs. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, if you remember, Mommy was fine with the orphans because she never wanted them to feel alone like she did. She was protective of the kids. No, the only people that Mommy Longlegs lashed out at were the staff, the people who tortured her and transformed her into a giant neon pink toy. She knew what they were going to be doing to these kids because it had all been done to her first. She was trying to be a protector, a comfort. We also know that she doesn't trust the prototype or any of his religious rhetoric.
What have you done? You'll make me part of you!
This is especially important if the prototype is indeed Elliot Ludwig, founder of Playtime, the man who started the whole toy conversion process in the first place. She doesn't buy his liberation to toy shtick one bit. She knows that he's once again trying to use the people around him for his own selfish gain.
What the fuck is that face?
Toys building a big body using the parts of other
big body
creatures. It's the Bigger Bodies initiative all over again, but this time for the prototype. All of these clues together make me curious about what our motivations are.
Who is this person?
Are we actually here to help, or are we just cleaning up the mess of evidence that we left behind? Are we on the side of the orphans, unwillingly turned into monsters, or are we gonna end up siding with Elliot all over again, a man who created a nightmare for so many? Early signs aren't exactly promising. We stripped Mommy of her freedom and independence only to feed her to the prototype. So what do you think is gonna happen next with these kids from Playcare? Seems like there's no route where we don't walk away with some blood on our hands. Though, some tells me that's something our player character is more than familiar with. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying... It's been 2 years since Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 released and took the internet by storm. It was everywhere. And so understandably, Chapter 2 was immediately put into production. 7 months later, there it was. Again, it was a huge success, so naturally Chapter 3's development was underway. And so we waited, and waited, and waited. 18 months have gone by, and still we're waiting. That doesn't mean Mob Games has left us completely empty-handed. They've been giving us little tidbits of lore in all kinds of strange places. But with all these little breadcrumbs of lore being dropped over such a long period, it can be hard to keep track of what we do and don't officially know. That is, until today. Today I'm giving you in one complete video the definitive Poppy Playtime timeline. The Poppy Playtime line. Poppy Playtime line. Poppy Playtime line. It feels like it doesn't work, but it works, technically. Just saying. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that'll stretch far and wide to find the lore. And while I'm busy doing that, why don't you give a big ol' huggy-wuggy to that subscribe button? We're always doing videos like this to keep you guys up to date, and clearly, it's necessary. I mean, Mob Games has gone a bit insane with the lore drops for this one. It's not quite FNAF levels of let's release 20+ books with a single line of lore hidden in each one, but still, it's a lot to have to keep track of. Outside of the 2 main chapter releases, we've had a spin-off title with 3 phases and 2 VHS tapes, 3 found footage YouTube videos, 2 ARGs with dozens of tiny scraps of lore, and a partridge in a pear tree. They even hid lore in their anniversary videos. Like, who does that? Who does that? But while their methods might seem unorthodox, it does mean that there's a lot of lore and a lot of dates
I'm so tired.
that are pretty difficult to keep track of, especially when all the story they've been seeding out happens decades before the actual
How much more is left?
themselves. So today, we're gonna be wiping the slate clean and starting
like 2
over.
more
We're gonna be
left.
putting all the evidence together, all the theories we've had to create one cohesive timeline, so when Chapter 3 does release next month, we know exactly where we stand and what to expect. Strap on those grab packs, friends. It's time to lower ourselves into the depths of this haunted toy empire's history. The story begins not with any of the games, but rather with Playtime Co.'s website. On this now deleted webpage, we learn about the company's founder, Elliot Ludwig. He founded Playtime Co. in 1930 as a way to, quote, bring joy to children. He gave everything to his company, but sadly that work ethic would just wind up pushing his wife into divorce. Regardless, Elliot continued onward, determined to bring Playtime Co. to new heights. And according
no, it's not working right now.
The company
but regardless, they're gonna react the same. Why do you keep throwing your bra at me?
created the toy that would put them on the map. In the most incredible doll video on YouTube announcing the game, we find our titular toy, Poppy Playtime. Elliot had outdone himself. Poppy wasn't just a lifeless doll, she could talk to you. She could even respond to questions.
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Children everywhere.
I have to like restart OBS or something.
Smelled just like her namesake of poppies. Flower that doesn't actually have much of a scent, but does contain opium, which was used throughout history and children's medication to relieve
Don't worry,
pain
it'll work
and
tomorrow
sleep.
or
So we had this new
Friday.
toy that every child wanted.
You can throw as many brawls at me as your heart desires.
And sleepier. These toys started to fly
God, I
off
know you
the
will.
shelves, and the company became a household name. That said, not all poppies were created equally.
Ah,
All the regular Poppy dolls were incredible feats of engineering, but one was at a different level. Her conversational skills were like having a conversation with an actual person.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
But that wasn't a coincidence, because she was an actual person. Hidden in the game files is an unused ending monologue for Chapter 2, where Poppy reveals a lot more about her backstory. Specifically, this line right here.
Terrible things have happened, and I am the cause. Being able to exist as a doll, it has killed so many people.
And when you combine that with the maintenance VHS where we saw blood dripping
What?
off the voice box and those weirdly human-looking
Ghosty, you know it's not working. Why would you spend the bits? I'm sorry. Thank you for the bits, though, Ghosty.
Of what? It all comes back around to Elliot in the next decade of the timeline, the 1960s.
You knew it wouldn't work. How could you do this to me?
Pushed Ludwig down to his lowest.
This family loss started it all, and I believe that this was the person who became Poppy, the first of what would be many others. But he didn't have any family that we know of. His wife divorced him 3 decades ago, and any children that he'd have had with her would be in their 30s at this point. That's why the prevailing theory is that Elliot had a young adopted daughter. He wanted to bring joy to children, to the point that he would encourage his employees to also adopt, even going so far as to build an orphanage on factory grounds.
That is why it is with enormous pleasure that I announce Playcare, our very own on-site orphanage.
Adoption and loving children was clearly on his mind, so the idea of him adopting a young orphan feels like a natural first step. And given that she was the only family that he had, her dying would be even more devastating to him, so he didn't let her die. Elliot took his dying daughter and preserved her inside a Poppy Playtime doll. In the most recent ARG, we've started receiving documents that discuss using organic parts, which would explain why Poppy's eyes look so real and why she has blood covering her voice box. Those were her real eyes. That was her real blood, used in a last-ditch effort to save the daughter. And shockingly, it worked. Poppy came to life. His beloved daughter returned.
What is this fucking face? Dude, what is this face? Why? Why? Who is your editor, Matt Pat?
That was designed to remind them of their family home, far away from everyone else, preserved in a glass box where he could visit her and keep her safe from anything else that might happen. Over the next couple of
Don't question the art. Hey.
Like Leith Pierre as the head of innovation. They also release all sorts of popular toys like Brawn the Dinosaur, Boxy Boo, Candy Cat, and of course the company's next massive hit, the Blue Boy himself, Huggy Wuggy, followed quickly by Kissy Missy, because every Ken needs a Barbie.
Barbie has a great day every day. Ken only has a great day if Barbie looks at him.
Despite that popularity, the company struggles to remain afloat.
You and your uwoos.
We've built, I do not feel proud. Declining profits, failed experiments,
and your woes.
Constantly seeing things they shouldn't. How is that anything less than complete failure on our part? It's pathetic.
Those, dear theorists, are the words of Harley Sawyer.
I'm called the Doctor.
And he isn't just bringing up problems, he's also the man with the solution.
I'm here now with
Boss, you can't use the cake. Don't do it.
Bodies Initiative. Giant toys. We can increase our workforce and simultaneously decrease the number of lawsuits and people on our
Oh my god. Corn gave us 1 bit. Let's fucking
go! The one living toy that told us she started it all, Poppy. This leads us to the early 90s when the Doctor's plan is in full swing. It's here where we join him trying to recreate the magic that is Poppy, studying her in her little safe glass case and trying desperately to figure out how Elliot's daughter was able
Corn
to
gave us money! Yeah!
Experiments, one of which we see a report of on Elliot's desk in Chapter 2, Experiment 814. Based on the handwriting of this and several other notes, this appears to be a report written by the Doctor himself. And by this point, it's pretty darn clear what element of Poppy he's focused on. Quote, the experiment utilized a live rat. Rat was fed 3 portions daily for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, the rat was killed and submerged into a poppy flower preservative gel mixture. 1 week later, an electric shock was applied to the rat in an attempt to revive it. The rat... Poppy flowers and living parts are the 2 key factors to creating more living toys. His experiments still wind up in
the fuck, boss?
The Doctor seems to have
that was so loud.
Quote again,
it scared the shit out of me.
Poppy flower. Perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. And in chapter
can't say no.
Reveals exactly what he
For
meant.
fuck's sake.
It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me mommy because I was the closest.
I'm telling you, dude, this fucking thing awakened a lot of shit in a lot of people.
What's the difference between
unfortunately
14 and Poppy? Poppy wasn't a rat.
The fucking mama spider thing. What was it called? The mommy long legs?
Which means if they go missing, there's no missing persons report.
People are freaks.
Because who would miss them. It was the perfect crime and the perfect answer to the doctor's experiment. To facilitate this, the company creates PlayCare, Playtime's own on-site orphanage, as well as the Game Station, a facility designed to test and improve the skills of the orphan children. In Chapter 2, we see reports that show us the improvement of one specific child's skills, and in those reports, we see that they've been assigned a toy that they'll soon become. It's at this point that the Bigger Bodies Initiative has a breakthrough. Using pieces of organic parts and machinery, they're able to create a prototype of what they wish to create. Experiment 1006.
The prototype seems to possess an unprecedented level of intelligence, beyond that of all other test subjects, as well as an alarming willingness to commit violence.
The tape goes on to describe Huggy Wuggy, experiment 1170, as fully obedient.
117?
I believe that there was something for him to be more intelligent means that he must have stronger cognitive function than the orphans. Children are under control. They don't know what to do because they're an adult, an authority figure. But what if 1006 was a fellow adult? That might make it harder to control, especially if there's someone with supreme building skills.
The prototype seemingly disassembled the digital alarm clock within his room and utilized the battery, along with several other components, to create a laser pointer, which he then fired into the security camera, disabling it.
Who's an adult in this franchise that we know has the genius and creativity to make some of the most beloved toys in the world? None other than Elliot Ludwig himself. Now, initially, I theorized that he became 1006 because he was an adult who loved and cared for orphans, and so when he discovered that the doctor was using him for his experiments, he went to shut the whole thing down, only for the doctor to silence him. That's why 1006 is so aggressive towards the scientists and why he later lead the charge.
Can't tell if Corn's falling asleep or
if he's calling out to Z.
Reminiscent of what he always wanted to achieve. Bringing joy to children.
Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him.
But here's the problem. Since that theory, there's been a few pieces of evidence that tell us that Elliot was fully aware of the experiments happening on the orphans. There's an email that appeared in the most recent ARG written by Elliot that says, quote, "One of those dang Huggy Wuggies is loose. For it to get loose, it has to be alive, meaning a child had to have been converted into a version of Huggy." This email would also disprove Elliot as being 1006 because Huggy Wuggy is experiment 1170, and if these people have any respect for the scientific process, 1170 should come after 1006.
My creative juices have never been juicier? Oh, what's going on? Are you cooking?
Main reason?
What's in the fucking oven?
Labeled June 23rd.
What's in the pan?
Huggy Wuggy the toy wasn't even created until 1984, 3 years after that date. In his description in Project Playtime, it specifically calls
I hope everything's alright.
a living giant version of the famous Playtime Co toy. So Giant Huggy couldn't exist in 1981 if the toy he's based on didn't exist in 1981. Looks like the timeline's getting tricky to keep track of, even for the creators of the timeline. But while the evidence may not have panned out, I still think we can say that Elliot was fully aware of what was going on. We hear Elliot Ludwig opening the PlayCare in the teaser for Chapter 3.
We owe everything to these children. This company and its toys are nothing without them. That is why it is with enormous pleasure that as the founder of Playtime Co, I announce PlayCare, our very own on-site orphanage.
Did you hear that? We owe everything to these children. That to me sounds like someone who knows exactly what's about to happen to these kids. It's classic hiding the truth in plain sight kind of language. That being said, I wouldn't be so fast to say that my theory of Elliot being the prototype is totally debunked yet either. While this shows that he was fully aware of the experiments and therefore wouldn't have been angry with the doctor and what he was doing, it also doesn't stop him from being turned into the prototype. Consider this. We don't know how old Elliot is at any given point in the story. The best we have to go off of is that he was married at some point in the 1920s and divorced in 1930. The average age of a man getting married in the 1920s was around 25. So let's say that he'd been married a few years before divorcing and was now around 28 in 1930. That would mean that by 1990, Elliot would be around 88. So pretty old, but still kicking. So what if, rather than being got rid of and forced into the experiment, he was a willing participant in that?
Oh yeah!
We see in the VHS video restricted restoration that Playtime is okay with using adults, and specifically adults who are close to death. In Project Playtime's Phase 2 update, we hear the doctor say this:
"Mortality is the curse of the weak."
Which lines up pretty well with the Chapter 2 death screen, "May we forget death." Being in his late 80s, Elliot may have seen the writing on the wall, and while the PlayCare was still being set up, he decided to offer himself to the experiment to prove the concept, to help him live forever and to continue seeing Playtime Co thrive. But something happens that neither him nor the doctor expected. You see, there's an adult that's turned into brawn, known as Experiment 1199, and a key factor is that he isn't able to remember who he is or what happened to him. Whereas the other converted toys, the ones made from children, they seem to be able to remember at least something of who they were. They recognize that this character isn't a tortured child like them, and so they attack him. But if that's exactly what happened to 1006. An adult brain might just be unable to truly keep all its memories. Elliot doesn't remember exactly who he is. He's essentially back to his base mindset and instincts, and using his intellect, he's able to put together the pieces, seeing the pain of all the children as they were converted, leading him to lash out and become the evil mastermind that we know today. Despite all the violence and murder, the prototype is essentially...
Despite all the violence and murder, I love how he glosses over fucking horrific crimes against humanity.
The Bigger Bodies Initiative, with their first major success coming in the form of an old toy from 1966, Boxy Boo.
They said it was impossible, yet you defied all odds. The first of many. Naturally, you have proven my Bigger Bodies Initiative a success.
And just in time, too. The doctor always wanted these bigger bodies to fulfill jobs around the factory, and there was a very specific job that he needed resolved, and fast.
Now, we need to start tailoring that appetite of yours to flesh. Where to start? Get me an update on the situation.
Rowan Stoll was the IT guy for Playtime Co., and for a long time, that's all he was. In 1988, he fixed the puzzle pillars, those minigame towers that you find in Project Playtime, and in 1990, he fixed the phone service provider. Nothing major. That was until he started to notice something in early 1991.
Look, I know you don't want to hear any more about this, I get it. Sounds like a bad joke, huggy-wuggy staring at children. If some creep is hiding nanny cams in our mascot's eyeballs, then... something that needs to be taken seriously.
What Rowan was seeing wasn't nanny cams. It was the latest of the Bigger Bodies Initiative, 1170, and he was watching kids. That was his job. He was the newest security hire.
While we pride ourselves primarily on our high-quality toys and excellent childcare, we also pride ourselves on our security.
Naturally, Playtime Co. wasn't a fan of Rowan figuring this out, and so they shut him down.
I just want to apologize. I was wrong.
But intimidation wasn't enough. Rowan kept digging. He was an IT guy after all, so he began to build an FTP server with all the information that he'd gathered, even after they sabotaged his car to try and make it seem like it was an accident.
They've been using all the money they've made to experiment on people. I have proof of it all. While security is out, I'm going to release everything and run.
But Playtime Co. couldn't allow that. The doctor couldn't allow that. And this is where Boxy Boo came in. When Rowan went to investigate, Boxy was waiting. And when the moment was right, sprung out and swallowed him whole. However, this wouldn't be the fate for all employees who defied Playtime Co. In the most recent ARG, we've received an email from the head of security about a dead staff member with puncture wounds in his abdomen, and likely hidden for weeks before being found. This seems to be referencing Rowan, who, even after death, continued to be a nuisance. Now they needed some sort of cover-up story for the police. So going forward, the doctor would correct his mistake. He would try a different approach, one that would make bad employees disappear permanently. In that final FTP dump from Rowan, we got a disciplinary notice for Patty Hall. This name has only come up once before, as an employee who sabotaged the paint machines, causing toys to be recalled and the company to lose profits. We see that for her disciplinary action, she was sent to Storage B by none.
I can't get over the animation choice for the art in this.
The PNG, or
it's just like how faceless individuals will just get fucking googly eyes put on them.
People are being experimented on.
But why not?
Patty Hall being sent
like
to a place where we
this.
see a Bigger Bodies Initiative experiment. Coincidence? I think not. I think this was the fate of Patty Hall. She defied Playtime Co. and the doctor, and so he turned her into Kissy Missy, where there would be no more trace of her for police. Not all these experiments were complete successes, though. In a report from the newest ARG, we learn of experiments 1186 and 1187. And while we don't know exactly what went wrong, we do know that there were, quote, shortcomings. So it may not be that there are almost 200 living toys active in the factory, but rather that there are around 200 attempts, some of which were successful like Huggy Wuggy, and others that were less so. Regardless, that is a lot of victims. And given that Rowan's report started in early 1991, and the latest experiment number we have is 1222 for Mommy Longlegs, who was invented before her toy was released in 1991.
Don't forget to say TM.
Means that all of this happened in a single year, 1991. You gotta appreciate the efficiency of these guys. And so they needed to develop a more effective way to infuse the orphans they'd acquired with the poppy mixture that was vital to the transformation process. So they invented something that we've seen throughout the teasers for Chapter 3, poppy gas. Like I mentioned earlier, poppies have been used throughout history to help kids sleep, and so converting it into a gas is the perfect way to not only get poppies into their bloodstream, but also to sedate them, get them to listen, obey, to sleep, not putting up any kind of fight. All you gotta do is give your staff members fun gas masks, like the Mickey Mouse masks from World War II, colored in Playtime Co.'s signature red and yellow, so they are
That's
less
terrifying.
scary to kids.
How the fuck is that less scary than for kids?
kids. And this is where the newest ARG once again comes in with the answer. We've received a couple of reports from staff members of the Playcare that tell us a little bit more about the operation that was going on there. The one child that keeps coming up in multiple reports is Theodore Gramble, who apparently was caught sneaking around the Playcare looking for files that a quote-unquote friend told him to find. Quote from the report, "I don't know his name. Nobody else knows he exists." Naturally, the counselor's suspicious of this, as the requests for files seem way too specific to be made by just a 7-year-old. A mysterious figure hiding in the shadows that kids don't know exist and is looking for files about the inner workings of Playcare? Sounds to me like Theodore is getting a visit from 1006, and that's exactly what's happening. Literally, as I'm writing this episode, we got another load of images from the ARG, and one of them is a drawing of Theodore sitting on his bed with a familiar black arm reaching out from under it. The prototype is using Theodore to try and stop the entire operation, to free the kids. But sadly, Theodore doesn't work out quite as intended. According to a transcript, he tried to escape, but something malfunctioned and he got electrocuted, stopping his heart and badly burning him. Fortunately, and unfortunately, there's a way to save him. At the same time all this was going on, Playtime was developing experiment 1188, based on one of their newest toy lines, the Smiling Critters, specifically the purple cat, Catnap. This experiment would have massive claws, be able to change its size, and be fitted with, quote, a gas delivery apparatus at the back of the esophagus. This toy was going to be the perfect way to administer the poppy gas to the kids at the Playcare. They just hug and play with their new favorite toy while it slowly released its hallucinogenic gas. And right at the bottom of the document, on the name of potential candidates for conversion, who do we find? None other than Theodore. He had a horrible accident, maybe even close to death, so they gave him eternal life by turning him into the new villain for Chapter 3. In the Chapter 3 teaser, we see phrases like, "The original saved me, I rejoice in him," which are heavily implied to have been written by Catnap. He worships the original creation. He wishes to do nothing but serve him. Sound familiar? It's just like how the prototype, the original creation, spoke to Theodore, asking him to do things like finding files. Theodore and his new gas powers were put to good use by Playtime Co. No child would ever step out of line like he did again. We see drawings from children about their new giant purple friend, but not all of them are happy. Some kids seem to have nightmares thanks to the red gas that comes out of their new friend's mouth. The worst case that we see is that of Marie Payne, whose sedation thanks to the poppy gas is so severe that she can't even wake up from the nightmares anymore. But while the employees caring for her seem concerned, clearly Playtime Co. got exactly what they wanted. On a transfer request we find in the water treatment control room of Chapter 2, we see the name of the child that would eventually become Mommy Longlegs, Marie Payne. Mommy was eventually moved to the game station, mainly because her trauma at the hands of Playtime led her to be violent towards adults, but motherly and caring towards the children, which made her the perfect fit. Mommy is the last experiment that we know of at this time, experiment 1222, but I suspect that there are many more based on this photo that we got in the lead up to Chapter 2's release, showing the company in its heyday, May of 1992, a year after Mommy Longlegs' creation. But there's still plenty of kids playing around at the game station, more kids to be trained up and taken to Playcare for sedation and conversion. But this is where the tides turn for Playtime Co. Later that year, Huggy Wuggy escapes the facility in the first of many incidents where the bigger bodies monsters start rebelling against the company under the command of 1006. This would come to a climax in 1995 with an event known as the Hour of Joy, a combined effort of all the toys united against the Playtime Co. staff. So far, all we've seen of this event is an analog video of Kissy Missy going missing with blood splatter and claw marks everywhere, but we know it doesn't just involve her. In the background of the tape, we can hear screaming from staff members in the factory, the same screams that are heard in the back of the final VHS tape from Chapter 1.
Coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set, as well as the skill set of all other experiments of his type. Though still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him.
1006 orchestrated the entire event, the Hour of Joy, bringing joy and freedom to the children that he failed all those years ago. With the Playtime staff now either entirely killed or kicked out of the facility, business essentially stops. However, the company tried to remain open in an unusual way. The spin-off title Project
my fucking shoulder hurts so much.
Specialists gathering toy parts to be extracted and turned into parts of the Bigger Bodies initiative.
Here's the job. You need to collect toy parts to make a giant toy. Get that giant toy on the train, then leave.
At this point in history, the Bigger Bodies toys are running the factory and hunting us down, trying to feed the many toys that remain, while also stopping us from making more monstrosities like themselves.
They are trying to build more toys, more like you. It has to be stopped.
It's not entirely clear how this part of the timeline ends. The game's still releasing phases with new VHS tapes and secret messages from 1006, all with the theme of, hey, we're the ones to blame for this.
We wonder who we are, but why? You should know. It was your doing that made us, oh, we said that!
Which leads us all to today and the main game. You know, the game that we actually play. 10 years after the factory closed, we show up. A former employee determined to make things right.
But you You worked here.
Regular employees like Rowan weren't aware of what was going on, so for Mommy to know us, we had to have been working at the game station, running experiments on these kids. We were some form of an executive here. Supporting this theory is the fact that there are 5 executive slides down to the game station in Chapter 2. We know all 4 of these characters, and the last one, well, the last one's missing a name. I believe that was our slide. If you take the letters on the floor and rearrange them, you don't really get any sort of clear-cut name. In a previous episode, I landed on Jamie B. Honey, only to realize after the fact that I'd accidentally swapped an A for an E. Plus, if you look closely, there are spaces for 5 letters on top and 6 letters on the bottom. The best I can come up with based on those new criteria is Ebony
Z,
Jemiah.
you're an
So
absolute
clearly it's still up for
fucking
grabs.
cooker.
Regardless, I still maintain that we were the head of
Yeah.
production at Playtime, the only department on this Chapter 2 floor that's left unaccounted for.
Nice. So what creative juices have you been working with?
We were directly involved in the production of these toys, and so we've come back to
I've
undo the sins of the
restarted
past, or
the rusty
more
old
importantly, bury them once and for all.
abandoned
We knock out
graphic
Huggy,
design
free Poppy from her case,
engine
split
in
Mommy in
Print.
2, and get her dragged away by 1006,
Ooh.
escaping the game station only for something to derail us outside of Playcare. And there you have it, folks, the complete timeline of Poppy Playtime so far. Almost entirely based on fact, with a couple of theories thrown in there that are very well supported at this point. How will Chapter 3 affect all this? Will we see Theodore the cat? Will the smiling critters be able to be saved, or is it too late for them? We're only a few weeks away, so time will tell. In the meantime, remember, it's a good idea to use science to create living toys out of orphans, but it is a good idea to use science to get you to drink more water, and there's
Okay. One more after this one, and we're wrapping up stream, boys.
Welcome to your first day here at Game Theory.
Watch this be like the longest video he's ever made.
Could you imagine it's like 3 hours long?
Recaps the entire lore.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that might be a little late to the Poppy party.
No!
So a mob game.
Not bad.
I'm sure you're probably wondering why Pat suddenly sounds British, so let me introduce myself. I'm Tom. I'm from England. I'm allergic to apples. I want to be Dorko at axe throwing.
Hi, Tom.
Oh,
You are him.
and this is my very first episode as the host of Game Theory. That being said, this is far from the first Game Theory I've ever worked on. I hadn't actually done the math until writing this episode, but it turns out I've written around 100.
How dare you mimic his pose?
Working here, which is wild. And I've covered so many different topics.
You're not him. You'll never be him.
You're not him.
When I say that I've
No!
You're not him. Put that finger down. I refuse to endorse such heresy.
Alright. I think we're good. I think we're done.
One
It
more. It's
just-
not that, Pat. I think we're done.
No, it just ain't the same. It just ain't the same.
They all mimic the pose.
They all
but
mimic the pose.
It's the Matt Pat pose.
That is trademarked, motherfucker!
That's trademarked in my brain. How dare you?
You
trip
can't.
On it.
You cannot.
You soiled it.
Soiled it.
Soiled it.
Soiled it. Soiled it.
But I was just doing all that while Pepe was curled up in my lap.
Aww.
Yeah, the fact that you're able to cook that well while being in bed is very, very cool.
It really isn't that hard. If I was able to like stream it, I would. I mean, I could, but I'd have to like join on my phone.
Whopper. Yeah, and we would be distracting the shit out of you too. Alright, boys, we're gonna raid out to Kathleen Vega. Vega.
Let's go.
Vega. Oh, I wonder if I could get Miku to say that. I'll have to find like a Miku.
Anyway.
Like a little Miku sounding.
Good boy, everybody. I'll see
Bye,
you on Friday. We're having a sleep stream. Good boy.